Thanks, Rory. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. It's 9 o'clock, time for a news update, and it's over to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Gardai say it's never too late to do the right thing and assist in bringing the killer or killers of a Donegal man to justice. Superintendent David Kelly of Milford Garda Station has issued a fresh appeal for information over the killing of Sean Duffy at his home in Dunloe over 17 years ago. It's been described as one of the county's most gruesome murders. Catherine Gaffney has more.
On the morning of Saturday the 29th of January 2005, 36-year-old Sean Duffy was murdered in his home at Meena Cross in Dunloe. Mr Duffy returned home at around 2:30 that morning after a night out and was attacked and fatally injured in his home. Gardaí involved in the case at the time said it was one of the most gruesome murder scenes they had ever encountered. Investigating Gardaí continue to appeal for information in this case and believe that a number of people have yet to come forward who may now be in a position to assist in bringing those responsible to justice. They say that it's never too late to do the right thing and assist in bringing Sean's killer or killers to justice. Anyone with information is being urged to contact Milford Garda Station on 074 9153 114 or the Garda Confidential line on 1800 666 111.
A government minister's admitted that making a decision on the format of this year's Leaving Cert is a difficult thing to get right. The issue goes before Cabinet today, with the Education Minister Norma Foley recommending a return to the written exam format, although there will be greater question choice on all papers. The Children's Ombudsman, sixth-year student groups and opposition parties had all called for a hybrid model like that used in the past 2 years. But Foreign Affairs Minister Simon Coveney says the government wants to get it right for students and the credibility of the Leaving Cert.
One of the big challenges here is that 1 in 4 doing the Leaving Cert this year don't have a junior cert. That certainly would have been helpful in terms of shaping any alternatives to a traditional Leaving Cert. So I would like to hear what Norma Foley has to say this morning in Cabinet, and I'm sure we'll discuss that and try to get this right for students and for the credibility of the Leaving Cert.
The Irish Nurses and Midwives Organisation has warned that chronic hospital overcrowding cannot become the norm once again. The INMO's General Secretary Phil Nehay says last month saw the biggest levels of January overcrowding since this trolley watch began in 2006 at a number of hospitals, including Letterkenny and Sligo University hospitals. Letterkenny University Hospital was the second most overcrowded in the country last month, with 817 people waiting on a trolley there. And for weather now, today will be breezy and mostly cloudy with limited bright or sunny spells. There will be scattered outbreaks of light rain or drizzle with highest temperatures of 10 to 12 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
If you have symptoms of COVID-19, it's important to self-isolate straight away. This helps stop the spread of the virus and protects other people. You should also get a COVID-19 test, either an antigen or a PCR test. Find out which test you should get and book it at hsc.ie. And please, don't attend work, school or social events if you have any symptoms. Stay at home and get a test. From the HSC, for us all.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
A very good morning to you. 4 minutes past 9 on this Tuesday, the 1st of February. How are you doing? I hope you're very well, and hopefully we have your company now for the next 3 hours in this programme and throughout the course of the day on your number one local radio station, Highland Radio. It's a busy show today. Our usual feature, of course, on a Tuesday, the Community Garda slot. That's coming up a little later on. We're going to be having plenty of reaction, of course, to the news that Leaving Cert students will sit a traditional Leaving Cert exam. We'll have a chat about Boris's woes across the water and so much more besides. You know how to get involved in the conversation. It's 086 60 25,000. That's your WhatsApps or texts, or call 074 91 25,000. 2000. Right, let's look at the newspapers for this morning. We'll start with the Donegal People's Press, and Gardai have issued a new appeal for information regarding the murder of Sean Duffy. The murder took place at his home in Meanacross, Dunlow on January 29th, 2005. Superintendent David Kelly of Milford Garda Station appeared on last night's episode of Crime Call on RTE1. He renewed an appeal for anyone with information to contact Milford Gardaí on 915360. The brutal nature of the killing of the well-known local man shocked the community and led to an extensive investigation. To date, however, Mr. Duffy's killer remains at large. I imagine that appeal will also form part of that community Garda information slot a little later on today. The front of the Derry Journal is dominated by a picture and three simple words, but important. We remember still. This extensive coverage of the 50 years since Bloody Sunday on the inside of that paper. On to the Nationals now, and that controversial picture of former General Secretary Niall Burgess. It's a selfie of a champagne party that took place at the Department of Foreign Affairs in June 2020. It's contrary to everything we were being told to do at that time. And, of course, it was investigated from within. They investigated themselves effectively. But that being said, it's a rather damning report, though Simon Coveney wasn't even interviewed as part of it, remarkably. But anyway, I think he believes he's responsible to the people, to the Dáil, to committees, but not necessarily to his staff. Well, the former Secretary-General at the Department of Foreign Affairs has agreed to make a €2,000 donation to charity as a review into the champagne party held at the department during lockdown revealed fresh details on the controversial gathering. Niall Burgess, who has been left shouldering the blame for the controversial gathering in June 2020 when the country was still under strict COVID-19 rules. The review found he facilitated the breach of social distancing guidelines that occurred at Ivy House, placed colleagues, particularly more junior ones, in a difficult position, and provided 3 bottles of sparkling wine which he had in his own office. The review also found that among the 21 people who gathered for the selfie taken by Mr. Burgess were 2 women who were on maternity leave at the time they came to the office on their own initiative. One of the women brought a nursing infant. So you've seen the report, have you? That's the thrust of it. He's donating $2,000 to charity. I think another 3 are donating $1,000. Is that enough for you? Is that it? A line drawn under it? Are you sick of an over-focus on these issues? Or do you believe that it needs to be dug further into? What are your views? 086 60 25,000. It's very possible that maybe you look at that and go, well, it's a much ado about nothing. There's much more serious issues that need to be looked at. Or maybe you think that it needs an independent investigation that might actually maybe pursue more what Minister Coveney's role was or was not in, he knew it happened at the time. Why didn't he sanction people then? Why wasn't it leaked to the press? Everything's leaked to the press. Why wasn't that leaked to the press then? Maybe you think things like that should be looked into further. More parties, many more parties across the water. Boris Johnson still managing to avoid having to resign from his position. Boris Johnson faced fresh calls for his resignation from Conservative MPs last night after it emerged that police are investigating 12 parties, 12 in Downing Street during lockdown, including one in his private flat. The Metropolitan Police said they were examining more than 300 photographs from the events, including a bring your own booze gathering in the Downing Street garden in the Prime Minister. It was his garden and he attended the event. Cabinet Office official Sue Gray gave Mr Johnson an update on her investigation into the parties, but said she could not publish her full report until after the police had done their work. Against the backdrop of the pandemic, when the government was asking citizens to accept far-reaching restrictions on their lives, some of the behaviour surrounding these gatherings is difficult to justify, he said. But Labour leader Keir Starmer, now I have no real interest in the politics of this. I find it more interesting to watch because it's almost like a soap opera, to be honest with you, and that's in no way not understanding how important this is to some people, particularly those who lost loved ones or couldn't attend funerals or didn't see them during the pandemic. But Labour leader Keir Starmer, now I don't know much about him, but I was watching him try and pin Mr Johnson down yesterday, and my word, he's not very good at it. I think if he was a stronger in that regard, I think Mr Johnson would be under much more pressure. But Keir Starmer is just, I don't think when he's speaking, he's just not convincing at all. And, when he was reading his speech, it sounded sometimes like it had written above certain lines, try and sound sad now. The transition from angry to empathetic and sad was so forced and feigned. But anyway, as I say, I don't have any interest other than the almost soap opera feel to it. But anyway, Irish Daily Mail, teenaged girl attacked while out for a walk. This is another worrying story of a woman who is just out going about her business and attacked randomly. A teenaged girl has been left traumatised after she was attacked by a male while out walking in a rural lane in County Kilkenny yesterday afternoon. Just 19 days after the murder of primary school teacher Aisling Murphy, the community of Johnstown is in uproar that a 17-year-old girl was set upon by a man who is now being pursued by Gardai. According to sources, the schoolgirl who lives in the locality was grabbed by a male who is aged in his 40s and was carrying a sharp implement. Gardai are investigating if the assailant, who was wearing dark clothing and who spoke with an Irish accent, may have attempted to abduct her. Now, she's being treated for minor injuries. Now, those are the physical aspects of that, I would imagine. The emotional impact is much more than minor. Good morning to you as you join us to watch the programme, by the way, on YouTube and Facebook. You can go onto our website, highlandradio.com, and click through the links and watch us there in your browser. Good morning, Bernadette, Michael, Annie, and also Kathleen, who've joined us already, amongst others. Now, in the Daily Star, we read that teachers experience the worst levels of workplace bullying in Ireland. Are you a teacher or former teacher? Does this surprise you? The bullied, bystanders and perpetrators in the workplace, the role of empathy in teachers and school leaders experience report from the Anti-Bullying Centre at Dublin City University found that high numbers of primary school teachers and secondary school teachers have been bullied at work. More than a third of teachers and senior management have been targets of bullying by other teachers and school staff members, and almost half of teachers reported occasionally witnessing colleagues being bullied by other staff members. The most common bullying behaviour taking place in schools involves staff members being ignored, excluded, or facing a hostile reaction when approaching colleagues at work. 6% of teachers reported enduring bullying at work on a weekly or daily basis. Other reported behaviours included withholding of information that affects people's performance, persistent criticism of people's work, and the spreading of gossip and rumours. 1 in 3 teachers say they've experienced it. 6% say they experience it on an ongoing basis. We talked about the Joe Rogan podcast on Spotify yesterday and the controversy surrounding it. He released a statement on Instagram in the early hours of yesterday morning. It's reported in some of the papers today. And podcast host Joe Rogan has said he'll balance out opinions expressed on his show after controversy about COVID misinformation. He said he supports plans by Spotify, which hosts the Joe Rogan Experience, to add content advisories to episodes about the pandemic. Responding to misinformation claims, he said he was not focused on only talking to people having one perspective. He said he would try to balance out controversial viewpoints with other people's perspective. And what was quite interesting is that he said his approach to the show, he's the one that decides it. It's very sort of, casual. And whilst he might have someone controversial, say, for instance, taking an anti-vaccine position, he said it's not because he's anti-vaccine or that's what he's trying to push. He says that, from now on, maybe in the next episode, he'll get someone with a differing point of view. And I watched what he had to say, and, for what he's doing, I thought it was a fair response. Superstar musicians Neil Young and Joni Mitchell have withdrawn their music from Spotify, citing Rogan's false information about vaccines for the coronavirus. Rogan, who's 54, has previously suggested the young and healthy should not get vaccinated. That's his opinion, and given the platform he has, he's able to express that. But as I say, he says that from now on, he'll put more information out there that's probably more in line with the general medical consensus. Now, if you are planning on going on holiday this year, or maybe you think you might, now's the time to check your passport, because there are delays now. Some people are getting their passports in record time. I know people that applied for a passport on a Monday and got it on a Wednesday. But look, there's going to be a rush. And the government's advising anyone who intends to travel abroad in 2022 to apply for their passport if it's due to expire, as demand is set to hit an all-time high. Foreign Affairs Minister Simon Coveney has said it's possible that 1.7 million applications will be made this year. First-time passport applications are experiencing lengthy delays, while Minister Coveney has said there are currently 100,000 online applications and 13,000 paper ones on hand with the Passport Service. Minister Coveney said, in the case of people planning to travel this year whose passports are already out of date or who have children who are first-time applicants, I'd encourage them to apply now online. That was in the Mirror. Okay. That was a run through what's making the headlines inside and on the front of the papers today. We are going to begin making our own headlines after these.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 9129562 and bring care home.
Our McCullough Jewellers in Letterkenny are synonymous with fine jewellery, quality watches and giftware. With stores at Main Street, Letterkenny and the Letterkenny Shopping Centre or online at ourmccullough.com. You can choose from their quality product range in a relaxed atmosphere, and their sales staff will be happy to help you make the right choice whatever the occasion. Our McCullough Jewellers, making moments magical for generations. Louis Walsh Opticians, the longest established opticians in Letterkenny, have now reopened for business and are welcoming new and existing customers alike, offering the latest brands with glasses to suit all budgets and styles, private, medical card and PRSI patients. For your next eye test, contact Louis Walsh Opticians in the heart of Letterkenny at Mount Southwell Place on 91-21,000.
There's never been a better time to switch to Electric Ireland. We're offering all new customers a €265 welcome bonus with our 2-year deal. All you have to do is call 1-800 30 50 90 or visit electricireland.ie. For your welcome bonus, switch today. Electric Ireland. We're brighter together. Estimated annual bill €2,019. Electricity and gas discounted unit rate including standing charge, PSO levy and carbon tax. 24-month contract. T's and C's apply. See electricireland.ie.
Nenera and Charman are currently enrolling for 2022-2023 with childcare available from 9am till 2pm. Quality childcare offered through the medium of Irish in a fun, exciting, imaginative and safe environment. We're just 15 minutes from Letterkenny. Call Nenera and Charman on 086 867 0168 for more details.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time at
9:17. Good morning to Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh, Caherlock of the Letterkenny Milford Municipal District. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Good. Before we get on to the graveyard, regrettable that soon-to-be Councillor Johnny McGuinness didn't get his day yesterday.
Yeah, disappointed for Johnny, Greg. You know, it wasn't just the best of starts. He didn't get onto the field to play at all. So we have to wait now until next week. I was talking to Johnny after the meeting. Obviously, it was a disappointment for him and a disappointment for his family that it didn't work out yesterday. But on the plus side, I suppose, he wasn't actually in Letterkenny. He was online, so at least his family weren't all sitting in the aura for the full day, you know. So we'll go again next week, Greg, and hopefully we can sort it out.
I mean, you were involved in a very rare process yesterday in the suspension of a member of the council for the period of a month, Councillor Frank McBurty. That decision was taken. You voted in favour of his suspension. It's, without getting into the ins and outs, we'll be speaking to Donal a little later on, I think. That's not really the work we want to see the council do. We want to see you getting on with, fixing stuff, doing stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. And I think that's basically why people voted the way they did vote too, because, there's been an ongoing problem with it's been hard to get council meetings finished for a number of months now. I have no personal interest in that or no bone to pick with anyone on the council, Greg. I think we just want to get in there and, as you say, get the job done and get through the agenda. That's what we're elected to do. But for too often we haven't been getting through the agenda, and you get to a stage even where items that should have been discussed are out of date by the time you get to them. So we have a responsibility, and nobody wants to a repeat of that situation yesterday, and nobody wants to be suspending members or anything like that.
Yeah, but Councillor McBurty obviously has very genuine concerns that he aired at council meetings in previous months and wants them teased out. Do you believe there should be a forum, be it within a council meeting or some arm of the council, to have that conversation, that those concerns can be heard? Because as much as you want to represent people who voted yours views, I'm sure Councillor McBurty, there are people who are concerned around his allegations, and they would want them aired as well.
Absolutely, Greg, and fully appreciate that. But there's a format to meetings, and they're there for a reason, and try to get through the meeting on that format. It's an agreed format over a long period of time. There's standing orders and so on, and we have to try and stick to that. I agree with you that totally that Councillor McBurty deserves to air his views, but maybe there is a need for another way of doing that. It's certainly not working within the format of that's there for county council meetings. And we are probably the only council in the country that isn't getting their meetings finished on a monthly basis.
All right. Now, the issue of a municipal graveyard for Letterkenny has come up again. There's been various calls along these lines. Also, on a county-wide basis. We know there's a shortage of space. We know there's been applications for graveyards which have been turned down, not in Letterkenny, but outside in other parts of the county effectively. So there is a problem that needs to be resolved here. It's been ongoing, this conversation, for a long, long time. And of course, you have to bring it back on the agenda again to keep the conversation active. What is, as far as you can determine, the problem, the hold-up here in terms of us having more space, and I suppose space as well for people of all denominations or none?
Yeah, that's one of the things, Craig, is that we have this multi-denominational society now. It's very different, particularly in Letterkenny, than it used to be. And to cater for all of that, and cater for people of no religion as well, but as well as that, the established churches are now under pressure for space as well. They're looking for help too, and this is a council responsibility. It's not an easy one in that you need a sizable bit of land to begin with, which isn't that easy to get. You need to look at environmental implications, traffic safety issues. How it fits in with surrounding lands and so on, and blends in with what's there already. So it's not easy. It's not something you can do very easily. I think maybe that in Letterkenny, maybe we're going to have to start looking outside the actual plan area if we're going to get somewhere suitable. But it is an ongoing issue, and it's one. You mentioned how long it's been going on, but yeah, I remember Pascal Blake, when he was in the town council, used to raise this on a regular basis. So it has gone on a long time, but we haven't really made progress on it, and it's just a matter, as you say, of keeping it in the agenda.
Are they actively seeking land? Like, is it a case that we had a look around Letterkenny, there's nothing within the town boundaries or within the planning area that suits, that's all we can do? Or have you received a commitment that the executive or those who they instruct will actually start now seeking out land? Maybe it has to be outside town. I mean, obviously, in terms of the environmental element, runoff and all that kind of stuff, but also, there might be a resistance for people to have a graveyard built beside them. That's all understandable, but this is not a problem that can be beyond us. There has to be somewhere within a reasonable distance, because as it is now, people are having to travel into Derry in some cases or further afield. So I don't think people would be, I don't think we have to, do we, have a situation where, the 40-odd thousand people in Letterkenny that will be here in the near future need to walk to a graveyard. That's not realistic. So we need to look outside the box and outside the area, somewhere reasonably close.
Yeah, I think so, Greg. And to answer your original question, yeah, I mean, the council, in fairness, are being active on this as best they can. They have people assigned to try and identify a proper place. This comes up all the time, Greg, and more so at workshops than at meetings, but it's raised regularly by a number of councillors, including myself, but many other councillors as well, bring it up on a regular basis. So we are pursuing it as best we can as elected members, and the council have been working on it, but it just has not been an easy nut to crack. But it's something that we need to keep at and need to keep looking to resolve this issue, because it's a problem that's not going to go away. It's going to become more acute as our established churches start finding it difficult as well to keep having enough space, So
I mean, there has to be a question too of equal access. There's almost an obligation to provide something like this, I would imagine, so that everyone sort of, as I say, has equal access. So just finally then, what has been committed to you following your latest raising of this issue?
Well, what's been committed is that they continue to look and there's talk about maybe trying to extend one of the existing graveyards, but it's just really there's no the search goes on really, Greg. There's a commitment to keep looking for a suitable site.
All right, then, listen, thank you very much indeed. Hopefully there's progress on it, because it's grand talking about this stuff and its content and all that. But, people, there's more serious issues, as in people needing the space, and we just need to get it sorted now, don't we?
Yeah, exactly, Greg, yeah.
All right, thanks very much indeed. Fine Gael Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh, he's Cahirloch of Letterkenny and Milford Municipal District. Right, okay, some of your comments here. A caller says, I find it very difficult to believe how a private company, namely PSA, has the ability to stop someone installing their own burglar alarm or CCTV or even putting a lock on one's door. They openly say they'll prosecute anyone that does this. They say unless someone who does this kind of work has to be a member of their organisation, otherwise they'll be fined or put in jail. I think I did hear those adverts, all right. We're going to have to look into that. It's great to hear young people getting involved in ocean welfare. These are the students we were speaking to from the Abbey Vocational School yesterday. But they go on to say it's every person of every generation who has to work on it. The governments worldwide are failing big time in granting these licenses to factory ships scraping the ocean's floor. Again, recommend everyone watch Seaspiracy. It should be part of the school programme. Okay, speaking of schools, we're going to be getting reaction and comment as it relates to the news that was leaked again, rather than the government discussing it, and then having a press conference and announcing it, or even emailing students who are directly affected. Once again, it was leaked in the middle of the night, bar the shouting, on social media, and we're now going to be discussing something that hasn't been formally agreed or formally announced. When are they going to have a bit of respect for the people and sort these leaks out? Be that as it may, we're going to discuss the latest developments as it relates to the leaving cert and how it will be sat after these messages.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
There are many reasons people are switching to Clear Mobile this January.
Serious deal. Simple as.
Customer service is A1.
Great coverage.
There you go. Unlimited calls, texts and data with 99% 4G population coverage from $12.99 a month this January. New year. You clear? Switch today at clearmobile.ie. 30-day contract. Activation fee and fair use applies. Max data speed 5 megabits per second. $12.99 subject to eligibility. Offer ends 31st of January 2022. See clearmobile.ie for terms.
From our soils, our sustenance. From our farms, our food. From our farmers, our ingenuity. From our villages, our unique communities. Our meats, our grains, our vegetables, our dairy, our eggs, our fruit. There is a little piece of Ireland in everything we produce. An Agri-Aware and Irish Farmers Association initiative promoting environmental, economic and social sustainability. Learn more at sustainingireland.ie.
This is the new Toyota Yaris Cross, a new kind of SUV, a new point of view, new compact style, new spacious feel. And exclusively self-charging hybrid. The right choice for today. Get a new perspective with the Yaris Cross self-charging hybrid. Available now at Kelly's Toyota, Port Road, Letterkenny, or Drumby, Mount Charles. You'll never take a wrong turn with Toyota. Built for a better world.
There's more furniture than ever on display at McGinley's Furniture in Letterkenny. With extra floor space, there's more suites, beds, dining room and occasional furniture. Also more rugs, mirrors and lamps, all available for immediate delivery. If you'd like to make a beautiful addition to your home, there's more furniture than ever to choose from at McGinley's Furniture on the Joe Boner Link Road, Letterkenny, and at mcginleysfurniture.com.
So students will sit a traditional leaving cert with some elements of choice this year under plans due to be approved by Cabinet this morning. The government set to dismiss demands from students for a hybrid model and will press ahead with a largely traditional exam in a bid to address grade inflation. Now, we do know that 2/3 of students want a hybrid option. We also know that 1 in 4 students did not sit a junior cert, and maybe you are of the view that this is the way forward, by the way, what the government is planning to do. If that is your view, please get in contact with us as well. Right, Clodagh joins us first. Good morning to you, Clodagh. Thanks for taking the call today.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm good. Right, you campaigned for the hybrid leaving cert. Firstly, I mean, obviously, it's unfortunate that you had to learn this via a leak overnight, but that's just the way things are done nowadays, it seems. But your reaction to the news that it is going to be a traditional leaving cert, albeit with some elements of choice?
Yes, unfortunately, Greg, I did hear the news last night, which is extremely disappointed. Now, we are going to start pushing to try and get the coursework finished, and it's very unfair, which is having a very negative impact on students' mental health. Secondly, grinds may be the only option, but unfortunately in disadvantaged households, this is not an option, which will have a negative impact on the students and households across the country.
And can I just interject, Clodagh, sorry, because I know you're in your flow, but those very same people also probably didn't benefit greatly from remote learning because maybe the equipment wasn't there or the connection wasn't there. So that's going to be arguably potentially a double whammy for those who may not have the resources to pay for grinds. They may already be disadvantaged by not being able to fully engage when we were doing a lot of this work remotely.
Yes, exactly, Greg. It's like when we were in lockdown last year for the 2 months, even some of my friends that were learning off iPhone 6s, which is a very small screen, some weren't even getting engaged in the online learning because they just couldn't. Like, it's very unfair. Like, students are very disadvantaged. Some households cannot afford grinds, some cannot afford the technology, especially during the online learning. It is just very, very unfair.
And we're having this conversation now as many sixth years are sitting not doing any work today and have done very little work or did very little work in January because of the amount of teachers out and subs not available or not able to continue the work. Like, this is not like students have been learning flat out now since, September or something. The whole month of January was completely, if not for the most part, disrupted in terms of learning 3 or 4 months out from actually sitting the exams.
Yes, exactly, Greg. Excuse me. And all we're hearing now is with mocks starting next week. We're not even ready for the mocks. The teachers are pushing us in classes, which is even stressing the students out even more. Like, if you look in the classroom situation, Greg, there may be students who cannot learn as quick as others, but sit quietly afraid to raise questions and are aware that the pressure the teachers are under to cover the course. And I have, even my own friends, they have told me that they sit there, they just don't know the work, but they're afraid to disrupt the class because of the students around them and the stress they're under.
All right, stay with me because you talked about mocks next week. I think it's coming a bit quicker for Ben. Hi, Ben.
How you getting on, Greg? How's things?
I'm all right. You're starting your mocks today, or you've started them this week?
Yeah, we're doing our lesson today, and then we're doing a lesson for Irish, and then we are doing the mocks now on Monday, next Monday. Okay,
well, I won't delay you very long. Then.
No,
Ben,
right.
Ben, what is your reaction to this news?
To be honest with you, Greg, I think we've been completely overlooked, as if we don't matter. Like, the option of choice is supposedly going to be given because it was through a leak, so we don't actually know. But I'll honestly just believe it when I see it at this stage. Our government ministers have just genuinely completely overlooked us. And our wishes as a student body, which was shown in 2/3 of us, 68%, in the ASSU survey, said that we urged for some sort of hybrid system. And it just shows that they obviously just don't care from the age group of 16 to 18-year-olds, like, or 16 to 19-year-olds even, because it's just like we've been completely swept under the rug. It's like, well, they know nothing anyways. And the government are making decisions on what they believe to be the best for us without even thinking of your average student's opinions on board. Like, I think that we have completely just been swept under the rug. That's the only comment I have.
I mean, I think any right-minded person would probably agree in terms of your views. There are different views out there, but the way it is, what we know is 75% of students could be accredited. And also, you know, at least two thirds of students, that's a 41,000 students, I think, which is a massive sample, wanted the hybrid option. So it would be very difficult to conclude anything other than they knew what you thought, but have completely ignored it and said, look, we know what's right for you.
That's exactly it. Like, I just feel like the students' voice has been completely stripped away based on the agenda of what the government ministers think is going to be okay with us. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. There's no fairness. There's no but now the only thing for the positives is clarity, because the last couple of weeks, as Clodagh was saying there, people have been completely distressed. They don't know what's going on. And the fact is, to have some light on the situation kind of brings us out of the dark. But at the same time, it's like we've been taken out of the dark and shot in the foot. It's really just that we don't know what's going on here. Like, it was a leak last night, and then I was getting texts from my granny, I was getting texts from my mum saying that, you know, this is going to happen this year. And especially at that, like, the leak just shows how much we don't matter. Because if there was some sort of formal outburst of it just saying, you know, we had this meeting and we're not going to give you the hybrid system, I would have been like, all right, fair enough, at least they did it in a mannerly way. But at the same time, the leak just shows complete disrespect to me. It just shows how much they don't care.
And Clodagh, back to you too. You know, I mean, obviously the certainty is going to be welcomed. We know one way or other what's going. But, you know, I would say there's an awful lot of students out there that have not been fit to focus, that they're almost starting, and I don't want to exaggerate it either, though they're almost starting, you know, from the starting line right now, because it'd be very hard to focus your mind through a pandemic, because obviously young people very much affected by that as well. It'd be very hard to focus your mind on studying when you didn't really know what you were studying for or how you would be judged, and maybe people were worrying about a poor junior cert unnecessarily because it's not going to be factored in. You know, I just wonder how many people feel like they're starting from scratch now, Clodagh.
Yes, exactly, Greg. It's a very good point. Like last week, you asked teachers what we study. Basically, you just go home and you're said, study all the coursework. Whatever's on the course, go home and study. It's very, very unfair. Like, you were given a massive folder. Go home and study the folder. You have to finish it yourself. You don't go into school the next day. They just push on with the course. They have no time to ask, was everything okay? It's not the teacher's fault here. It is the government's fault. But it's just when you go back into school, they just don't even have time to go back on things you don't understand, because it is going very, very quick. Now, this is very unfair on the student that cannot learn quick enough, quicker than other students. You know, and this is where grinds are coming back in here, like disadvantaged households that cannot afford grinds for the students that can understand. Then they go through obstacles in the course. You know, it's just very unfair. And then the students that can't afford the grinds, they're suffering mental health. You know, it's just the stress and the pressure on the student.
Yeah, and of course that's not only pressure being felt within a house, that's going to be peer pressure as well, because, you know, you're going to have friends maybe with different resources, and if someone can't avail of grinds or wasn't able to engage because of technological reasons, say for instance poor broadband or trying to do it on an iPhone 6, as you said, you know, they're going to feel lesser than, you know, maybe their best friend who was able to avail of all of that. Ellen Griffin is Donegal Regional Officer with the Irish Second Level Students' Union. And Ellen, it was your union that polled students. I think I'm right in saying it was it over 40,000? 2/3 of them wanted a hybrid system. I presume you were nodding in agreement, as Ben said. You know, we had our say, you just didn't listen to us.
Exactly, Greg. Yeah, the students of Ireland, they weren't listened to whenever this decision had been made and whenever this decision had been leaked. The government aren't putting themselves into the shoes of the students. They need to think like the students. These students have lost so much classroom time over the past 2 years, and so many of them, as Clodagh was saying, did not have the technology at home to partake in the learning when we were learning from home. And this really brought so many students to a disadvantage.
But Ellen, it's not, even if they had, you know, gigabit broadband, you know, on a 25-inch laptop, some students do not do very well learning that way anyway. Do you know what I'm on about? So, you know, that they are going to be instantly disadvantaged. Some students do far better in a face-to-face situation. That's why there was such a push to get students back into the school place, because that is recognised. So that batch of students may well be left behind as well.
Exactly, Greg. I completely agree with what you're saying. The students who even did have the technology, that may not have suited them to their best extent. And face-to-face learning, while we have had this for quite a while, we cannot catch up on the time that we missed outside of school. And this really has given every student across the nation a disadvantage because we were online for so long.
Right. Well, Ben, Clodagh, Ellen, either of the three of you, you know, if this is the way they're going to go forward with it, is there anything they need to be doing to ensure that it is as inclusive or as fair as possible? You know, other than obviously backtrack and go down the hybrid route, I don't think they're going to do that because they're getting pressure from unions as well as other areas. I mean, and obviously there's, you know, there's implications for grades, for college and all that. Do either of the three of you think that there's something should be done that would make it a little bit more tolerable, this current situation?
I think, to be honest, if they give us more choice, like the Leaving Cert last year, like we were looking through the paper, like for example, I do economics, like we were looking through the paper, and the amount of choice that they got to, like, it was unbelievable. Like, and the thing is, like, I genuinely really love economics, just for an example, like, but it's just the fact that it's hard to be able to put that much time and effort into all the subjects with the amount of time that we lost. Last time I was on with you, Greg, 97 days was the amount of time that we've lost. There's teachers that are off, and it's not the teacher's fault, because the teachers are stretched too, and we just need more choice, and especially clarity at this time. Hey, before the mocks, it's just that there's a lot of doors closed, and we need them to be opened. That's just the way it is.
Clodagh, do you feel that you're the class that gets thrown under the bus to get everything back to normal and get everything back on an even keel?
Yes, we are indeed, Greg, and I just think at this moment in time, it's basically just up to the student to try their best. And we are the most disadvantaged Leaving Cert by far. Like, I did see the Leaving Cert papers myself, and it's just utter disgraceful. Like,
Are any of the three comfortable talking about what kind of stress this puts students under? Not necessarily speaking personally. Well, Ellen, maybe you, because you know you're a member of the union. Because we talk about, words are thrown out like anxiety, okay, and the word stress and mental health problems. And I think sometimes those words are now being used, especially when it's relating to people in your age group, as if they don't have the importance that they should have. Now, I'm not saying that's across the board, but Ellen, do you get the point that I'm trying to make? Like, I'm trying to understand, how big an impact this is having on some students and how they feel, and how they feel about life.
Yeah, I do agree with your point, definitely. If the students had more in-class time and everyone was caught up to speed with the coursework, then their mental health definitely would be better. And I do also agree with you when you say the terms like anxiety are being, say, overused, but not the importance that they deserve are not being put onto them right now. And many people are overusing this word. But
because, you might say, well, a lot of students are anxious about, going on a first date, but it's not that. It's anxious to the point where mom or dad has brought them to the GP and maybe they're being medicated, or maybe they're trying to get access to some levels of support. That is the actual impact this is having on some students. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make too, Ellen.
Exactly, yeah, definitely. A lot of students are suffering with this, and I feel that if the students their voices had been heard, maybe this wouldn't be the case. However, we're obviously unsure of that because so many students across the nation do feel like their voices were unheard.
All right. And we'll remember all of this again when the debate the next time comes up about giving the vote to 16 and 17-year-olds, because, that often happens because it suits parties, necessarily, maybe, because they think the young people will vote with them. But let's not forget that during this conversation, the voices of 16 and 17-year-olds didn't really matter, seemingly. I'm not being controversial, but that's the only read I can take on it. Look, Ellen, thank you. Listen, the very best of luck with... you're actually doing your Leaving Cert this year as well, Ellen, are you?
No, I'm actually doing my Junior Cert this year, but from peers that I have in Leaving Cert who are in the union with me, the other regional officer for Donegal, she is doing her Leaving Cert this year. Brilliant. And she's given me a lot of feedback, so I know exactly how these people are.
No, listen, I think that makes it even better that you're sort of sticking together on this, regardless of what year you're in, and have empathy and understanding for each other. I see that as an advantage, Ellen, not a disadvantage. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so
much. All
right,
take care, and I hope everything goes well with your Junior Cert. Ben,
yes,
you're going to have to knuckle down now, buddy. Mocks
are on.
Okay, so I'm not going to ring you anymore, okay? I want
I don't mind it.
I want A's across the board. You hear me?
Once I get it, I'll get in contact with you.
All right, good man. Listen, thanks, Ben, and the very best of luck, genuinely. We will speak again. Thank you, and same to you, Clodagh. Again, you should be very proud of yourself, and your family should too. All of you, brilliant speakers, and making really, really clear points. And I think the future is bright in your hands. We just need to be looking after you a bit more, I think, on things like this. Thank you, Clodagh.
Thank you very much, Greg, for having me.
Have a good one. All right, take care of yourselves. Right, if you've got views on this issue, 086 60 25,000. Now, I also do genuinely want to say, because I know I might be coming across sort of in favour of the hybrid model. I think my views have been sort of formed by the amount of conversations I've had with students that want the hybrid model, but that doesn't mean that the voice of those, the 1/3 at least, who want to sit a traditional leaving cert, that voice is equally important and can, give us a better understanding. So please feel free to get in touch with us and express that point of view. Because as I say, it's very important, it's very valid, and, maybe there's other views out there, people out there that might go, actually, you know what you're saying is true too. We need to look after that point of view as well. So it's open to all views, okay? 086 60 25,000 or call 07491 25,000.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
I'm Sam Shed, Power Tool Protector Garden Angel. A mess on the inside, but I know what I saw outside. A cat, no, a man burglar, hopped Sam's back hedge and stole his bike. He couldn't believe it, but FBD did. With no excess to pay, they'll get him back in the saddle. After all, sure, support is what FBD do. Visit fbd.ie today to save 25% on your new home insurance quote. €650 limit per theft claim for owner-occupier contents in the open cover. Specified all risks required for items over this value. Claim will affect no claims bonus. Terms and conditions apply. Underwritten by FBD Insurance plc, FBD Insurance Group Limited Trading as FBD Insurance is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Don't sleep in and miss the very latest beds and mattress offers from dfibeds.ie, Ireland's leading online bed and mattress retailer. You'll get a comfy Irish-made mattress, upholstered base and headboard from an amazing €229. Check out the full range at dfibeds.ie. Delivery free and guaranteed to you within 7 working days. DFI Beds. Sleep well, live well.
When it comes to searching for a holiday, Atlantic Travel and Letterkenny deal with all the major tour operators from Dublin and Belfast to find you the best deals available. A week in the sun, a cruise, or maybe a short break. Whatever suits, you can book in confidence with Atlantic, knowing your holiday is protected should something go wrong. Take the hassle and worry out of your holiday booking with the award-winning Atlantic Travel, St Oliver Plunkett Road, Letterkenny. For a quote today, see Facebook, visit atlantictravel.ie or call 9126193.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Thinking of a sun holiday this summer with a family? Fly to Alicante, Malaga, Faro, Mallorca and Milan with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport, you're flying.
Okay, so let's see what the weather forecast has for us today. It'll be breezy, mostly cloudy, with limited bright or sunny spells. There'll be scattered outbreaks of light rain or drizzle, turning more persistent in the evening. Mild, with afternoon temperatures of 10 to 12 degrees in a fresh and strong gusty wind. Okay, now some of your comments. Right. Caller has a daughter who's hoping to do medicine and feels her only hope is to sit a traditional leaving cert rather than a hybrid leaving cert. For the child that puts their heart and soul into their studies, there's no places for them in college, even if they get the highest of marks, and points have skyrocketed as a result of changing the leaving cert system. Maybe the third level education system needs to be looked at also for these students. Caller totally agrees that the last couple of years have been completely disrupted for these students and understands the anguish, but this is not the answer in order to progress the students onto third level education. And the points, and I've made that point myself, and it's a very good point, the points have been skewed. You know, there's been a 1,000% increase in those getting scores for certain courses. You know, in the past, maybe 8 or 9 students could achieve a certain grade for a certain course, and then, 150 got these points. Caller says the leaving cert going ahead as in a traditional format is an absolute disgrace. The government just opened the country regardless of high COVID still circulating to try and make it disappear. Teachers are still off COVID with COVID, as are pupils. Nothing has changed. They've missed so much. It's unacceptable. Greg, have you ever watched the GB News channel that's been going since last summer? I haven't watched it myself. They have several high-profile presenters, including Nigel Farage, so I presume they have an agenda of some sort, similar to some of the American news channels, where it's not just about reporting what happens, but also trying to influence opinion. Yes, and they make no bones about it. It has a certain leaning, and in fact, one of the presenters took a knee and was sacked for it. Some of those that were there at launch left, and it's, you know, it ticks certain boxes for people with a certain view. I wouldn't enjoy watching a news channel that simply gave me the news as I wanted to hear it, if you know what I mean. I wouldn't see anything. I'd just be sitting nodding at the TV. You know, I like things that sort of go against what my opinion might be and challenge me and make me think. But anyway, it seems to be doing okay. Just texting in relation to the leaving cert, it's a joke once again. The government departments and ministers making decisions that have serious impact on young people without asking or taking their thoughts into consideration. Yes, it's great to get clarity, but still isn't as it is a leak. There's no excuse for not sorting this earlier or having young people more thought of in terms of these decisions. Got to feel for the young people. And maybe this is the story that, you know, it's the Department of Education. I'm sure other ministers were given a tip-off. Why don't they launch an investigation to find out who's leaking this information into the public domain? Because it is just not fair on us to be learning things this way. If the student refused to sit the exams, what can the government do? The government can do absolutely nothing. Sure, you can leave school whenever you like after a certain age. If they refused them en masse, I think it would fix a lot of problems for the government. They'd have an awful lot of capacity in third level. I don't know. I think really if it were the case that you could argue, okay, I'll say you could argue, I'm not saying it's opinion, if they cared what the students did, they wouldn't listen to the students, and the students wanted hybrid, they didn't give them that. So would they care if the students protested by not sitting the exam? I really doubt that, to be completely honest with you, but sure, look it. Right, okay, let's talk to Gary now. And we were speaking about Termon yesterday. There's a gentleman living at the bottom of an estate in Termon, and there is there's a particular problem for him in that between, I think it was about 7 and 9 in the evening, on occasion, but reasonably regularly, he's sitting watching TV. He's in the house on his own. His wife is away working. He's in his mid-60s, okay, but he's suffered with heart issues. So obviously his family are particularly concerned about that. And young people, he believes, are coming up and rapping the windows. Now, not just tapping them, banging them so hard that he fears they might come through. And now he's living in fear of when the next evening this kind of behaviour will occur. His daughter went to visit him yesterday, and she saw that it had happened the night before. She saw that this had had an impact on him to the point whereby, you know, he didn't look himself. So you can understand her concern was such that she wanted to speak publicly about it. Now, Gary is also in the Termon area. Is that correct, Gary?
Yes, that's right, yes.
All right, what's your experience, Gary?
Well, my experience is the exact same as what that man has been going through. It's been about 2 to 3 months. Well, it's near 3 months. This has been happening to us also. And it's the same thing, banging at the window, banging at the door, all hours of the day. There was eggs, about 6 eggs thrown at the windows and the door one of the nights. And, you know, as well as that, we were just watching a movie, and next thing you'd hear this really loud banging, and it'd lift you out of it, you know. Now, I'm 49, and I don't, you know, whatever age you're, and I wasn't going to phone in, or I wasn't going to talk, but when I heard what's happening to that man, I think, you know, I was going to call up to the man yesterday. I called up twice, but he wasn't at home, just to talk and just to let him know that I understand exactly what he's going through, you know.
Yeah, because you would start thinking, do they not like me? Is it something I've done? Do they want me out? Are they targeting me? But if it's happening to other people, do you have any idea of the motivation, Gary? Is it so that you chase after them, or is it...
Well, I did chase after them the first night, and it was probably the worst thing to do, because I know they'll probably get the thrill in the chase, but my natural instinct was, you know, protecting your property. And so, but the thing is, we did call the guards twice, and one of the other neighbours called the guards another night, and they did do patrol, and they did come in. I was talking to the guards, and the thing is, why I phoned the guards the first night was I went out and one of them was running away, and we just live in off the main road, but there's a gap in the hedge, but it's quite, you have to step up onto the main road. My dog got out and chased after him, and I went up then because she's never out, the dog is never out in the front on her own, and she went up onto the main road and a car nearly hit her. The car had to slam on its brakes, and I could see her, and the car literally just stopped in front of her. And it's just the snowball effect of a silly prank, how dangerous it could turn into. I mean, I think, you know, as I was saying to the guard, if another car was coming and that car swerved away to try and not hit the dog and run into another car, you know, there could have been a few people killed over that.
And it happens, and that happens, Gary. And you've been subject to verbal abuse from these people as well.
Yes. Well, me and my partner were a gay couple, and we're living up here in Donegal for over 20 years, and we've never had anything like this before. I went out another night when my dog was barking, and I just went out with the lamp, and I could hear them running away. And they ran up onto the main road, and then they start shouting back, you know, homophobic slurs and everything.
So they're local people, or at least some of them are local. That's the one thing.
No, they're definitely local because they're on foot, and they have to be local. And I actually seen 5 of them, and they were from the ages 11 to 13. That's what I thought their age group is, you know.
Right, so you don't know when it's going to happen, and obviously it's very disturbing. You can't just sit and pretend it's not happening either. Can you ring the guards every time? I mean, it's a multiple catch-22 kind of a situation feeling.
All I can do is appeal to the parents to know where the children are. I mean, this was at 11:30 at night time. You know, surely the parents must know their children are out at this time of the night. You know. I mean, there's always a ringleader. I mean, the kids can be edged on by another. But I also have to say there was a couple of older lads one other night. So there was different age groups. Whether the older brothers are doing it and the younger brothers hear them talking about it and they want to get involved and do it as well or whatever. I don't know. You know.
Right. Okay.
But, I went up to the top of the stair one night and the dog was barking again, and there's just trees at the very end, and this guy was hiding in and he had a high-faced jacket on. Now, he was about the same height as myself nearly, you know, so he wasn't a child, and I said to him, like, what are you doing? And he was at the wrapping the door out, you know, really hard, and I asked him, like, why was he doing this? And he just said, we're only knocking, he called it. And I said, come on. I said, you're not a child, you know. And he got out through the field and went up through the graveyard in Termon, you know. They were hiding in the graveyard in Termon one night. I did follow them. And they were hiding in the graveyard in Termon.
Right, okay.
You know, so I just don't know why... a few of the other houses have got eggs thrown at them, but this is going back a number of months back. There was about 3 other houses got eggs thrown at the windows. Now, the neighbours have been very supportive and very, you know, good. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, Termon is a lovely area, and the community is great, and the people are friendly, and we love living up here.
But it wears you down, though, and it is going to make people start feeling paranoid. You know, it has. Yeah. No one can be immune from that. Eventually, if not very soon, at some point, it's going to make you start thinking, this is just not the dream I thought it was. Do you know what I mean?
No. I mean, it does leave you paranoid. I mean, every time now we hear a noise or hear the dog bark, and I'm out checking with the lamp. I mean, even last night I was out, she was barking, and you know, I've decided I'm not going to be chasing after them or anything, but I'll just. I don't know. All I can do, as I said, appeal to the parents to know where their children are. I mean, their children could be well behaved, but when they get into, a group, they could be spurred on by another, older crowd or whatever. I don't know how to do it, but it does wear you down. And there was one night I couldn't sleep. I was up till 3:30. I was up 4. You just think what's going to happen next. I said to the guards, now, the guards said that all they can do is they're minors. They can't really do anything to them. All they can do is if they could find out who they were and
talk to their parents. Some of them don't sound that young. And is there a big leap from rapping a door really hard, banging on windows, to a brick coming in through the window? You just don't know.
That's what I said to the guard, what's next? Are the stones going to come through the glass? Or, something going to get... You know what I mean? Even check the car when we go out in the morning. We check the car before we get into the sea.
You shouldn't have to live like that. Listen, Gary, thanks for your time this morning. I hope it gets resolved. We appreciate, and I appreciate you actually coming on, because I presume the other gentleman, it'll show a bit of solidarity with him as well, because you could feel very isolated and targeted. So I think...
Yes, that's why I came on, because I just wanted to let him know. You know, I don't know whether anyone else in the area is, you know, someone else in the area could be going through the same thing. But that's why I come on, because I just wanted to let them know that, you know, you understand how that person can feel. And when that man hasn't been well, I just thought, you know, it's not a fair thing to do. And that man's probably lived here all his life, you know what I mean? And I heard his daughter there on the radio.
Yeah.
And I know she's concerned about him, and rightly so. But I just think, you know, nobody deserves this to happen to them, you know what I mean?
Agreed. Gary, listen, thanks for that. Best wishes to you and your partner, and we appreciate you coming on. Okay, we'll be back with more after the news and obituary notices.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. A government minister admitted this morning making a decision on the format of this year's Leaving Cert is a very difficult thing to get right. The Foreign Affairs and Defence Minister Simon Coveney was speaking as the issue comes before Cabinet this morning. Education Minister Norma Foley is recommending a return to the written exam format, although there will be a greater question choice on all papers. The Children's Ombudsman, 60-year student groups and opposition parties had all called for a hybrid model like that one used over the course of the past 2 years. Clodagh, a Leaving Cert student in Donegal, says the uncertainty is having an adverse impact on students' mental health. And in particular, she says, it's affecting people in disadvantaged households.
We are going to start pushing to try and get the coursework finished. It's very unfair, which is having a very negative impact on students' mental health. Grinds may be the only option, but unfortunately in disadvantaged households, this is not an option. Some households cannot afford grinds, some cannot afford the technology, especially during the online learning. It is just very, very unfair.
And it was Clodagh speaking to Greg on this morning's 9 till noon show. The Irish Nurses and Midwives Organisation has warned that chronic overcrowding cannot become the norm once again in the country's hospitals. Last month, a total of 8,636 patients were awaiting beds at hospitals across the country. 817 of those were awaiting beds at Letterkenny University Hospital. With more detail, here's Michaela Clark.
Letterkenny was the second most overcrowded hospital in the Republic of Ireland last month, with 817 patients on a trolley. INMO General Secretary Phil Nehay says it's unacceptable that chronic hospital overcrowding is allowed to continue while COVID is still rampant in many hospitals. She says while it is only the first month of the year, overcrowding records have been broken, with the highest levels of January overcrowding since the INMO began Trolley Watch in 2006, seen in a number of hospitals including Letterkenny and Sligo University hospitals. The INMO says members are embarrassed and tired of apologising to patients for the poor standard of care environments. The INMO is calling for the HSE to request a curtailment of elective surgeries until the end of February, as well as bespoke plans for hospitals where chronic overcrowding is a persistent feature of the hospital environment.
The community in Johnstown in County Kilkenny is said to be deeply shocked after a teenager was assaulted yesterday. The 17-year-old was out walking when she was attacked by a man believed to be in his 40s. He then fled the scene. Gardai are examining CCTV of the area. They're appealing to anyone that was near the Cullinan's Lane area at around midday yesterday to come forward. The Mayor of Kilkenny, Andrew McGuinness, says locals are nervous following the incident.
As a parent myself, I'm worried for my children, like every other parent is worried for their children, and it's sad that we now have to be extra cautious and that we have people within our communities, no matter how big or small, that are capable of something like this, and we need to work together as a community to stop it and to fight it.
Searches were carried out in Derry today following an anonymous report received by police in the early hours of the morning that a device had been left at a school. Police conducted searches and checks in the building in the Hawken Street area and also in the surrounding area. Now police say nothing untoward has been found. At this point, they do believe it was a hoax. They're urging anyone living or travelling through the area to remain vigilant and to contact them immediately if they see anything suspicious. Work is underway to identify a site for a municipal graveyard in Letterkenny. Calls for such a facility have been made by the Cathaoirleach of Letterkenny Milford Municipal District for some time. Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh believes a multi-denominational burial ground is vital as the size of the town continues to grow, as well as the need to meet the demand being placed on existing graveyards. He says to date, progress has been slow.
I think maybe that in Letterkenny, maybe we're going to have to start looking outside the actual plan area. If we're going to get somewhere suitable. But it is an ongoing issue, and it's one. You mentioned how long it's been going on, but yeah, I remember Pascal Blake, when he was in the town council, used to raise this on a regular basis. So it is going on a long time, but we haven't really made progress on it, and it's just a matter, as you say, of keeping it in the agenda.
Weather forecast and Met Éireann tell us today will be breezy and mostly cloudy with limited bright or sunny spells. Scattered outbreaks of light rain or drizzle turning more persistent this evening. It'll be mild this afternoon, temperatures of 10 to 12 degrees Celsius in a fresh to strong westerly wind. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news headlines again at 11 o'clock. Good morning.
The obituary notice says for this Tuesday morning, February the 1st. The death has taken place of Teresa Boyce, St Mary's Terrace, Ramelton. Remains will repose at her home in St Mary's Terrace, Ramelton from 3 o'clock this afternoon. House private to family and close friends. Requiem Mass on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Ramelton. Burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Rosary tonight and tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Funeral Mass and Rosary can be viewed on Church Services at TV. Family flyers only. The death has taken place of John Crossan, Castlegay, Coolboy, Letterkenny. Viewing in the Eternal Light Chapel of Rest at Mountaintop, Letterkenny this evening from 5 until 7 o'clock. Requiem Mass on Thursday morning at 11 o'clock in St Columba's Church at Kilmacrennan. Burial afterwards in Tully Cemetery. House is strictly private to immediate family only at the request of the deceased. Family flowers only, donations if desired to the Donegal Hospice, care of any family member or Patrick Sweeney, funeral directors. The death has occurred of Billy Doherty, Carrick McGrath, Ballybuffet. Funeral leaving his late residence on Thursday morning at 10:30 for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Shesh O'Neill. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. The funeral mass will be streamed live via the parish webcam. The house and funeral will be private to family, neighbours and close friends only, please. The death has taken place of Charlie Ward, 6 Sandringham Drive, Prehem Park, Derry. Funeral leaving his home tomorrow afternoon at 1:10 for 2 o'clock Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church, Dunnamana, County Tyrone. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of flowers if wished to NI Chest, Heart and Stroke. And the death has occurred of Rita Gallagher, Lower KG. Her remains are reposing at her late residence. House private to family, friends and neighbours. Funeral Mass this morning at 11 o'clock in St Mary's Church, Kincashla, with interment afterwards in Belcritch Cemetery. House strictly private on the morning of the funeral. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Good morning and welcome back to the programme. Okay, caller says every student is stressed out and there is no mental health support for them. I know 2 in my son's class have contacted services for support and there was a year's waiting list. What use is that to them? Another 2 in his class are sharing a laptop and taking in turn to use early and late. The person late using it doesn't get it till 11 p.m. and gets to bed at 1 a.m. It's unacceptable. That is the reality of what we're talking about here. My son is dyslexic and hates the thought of this form of leaving cert going ahead. Stress in that house, I'm sure. Greg, my passport took less than a week and saved me €16, and now with stamps going up 15 cent next month, do we really care as much as we used to about the cost of a stamp, I wonder? How many of you send letters regularly? The cost of the stamp is going up. Not for SMEs or people who buy stamps in the larger packs, but individual stamps. On Post say, look, that's the cost of sending a letter now between fuel prices and huge increases in costs. Is anyone as bothered as there was? I think a stamp going up 10 years ago would have been a big deal. Is it as big a deal anymore? Okay, last October it took me about 6 weeks for someone else, as the photo wasn't acceptable, so sent in another application. Twice, finally it came one mid-November morning. That's a passport, of course. But just an hour before that, I got another email as I was either expecting the passport or that dreaded email of rejection. As that morning, I got both. As I took a long walk, as I was seething with rage, when I did get back, the postie had the long-awaited passport in the mail. I don't know if prayer to St. Anthony helped, but can anyone explain that? Okay, don't know what the story is. That comes in from Kevin. Thank you, Kevin, for that. Who voted Jimmy Kavanagh? Don't remember the election. He was elected... you mean as Cahirlock, or he was elected onto the county councillors? Nearly all of the councillors were. Morning, Greg. In just 2 weeks, it's just 2 weeks since the tragic murder of Aisling Murphy. We have 2 more serious attacks on young women. Last week, the attack on 2 teenaged girls in Sligo, and then yesterday, the attack on a young girl in broad daylight. It's frightening to think the fear that this has installed in our young. As a mother of young girls, I feel so sad for them. As they say, it's not always possible to have someone with you. Maybe you walked home from work or decide to go for a walk on your lunch break, and now you're afraid there has and must be more serious sentencing. A warm cell, Sky TV, 3 meals a day and 3 legal aid is much too good for these people. And it is something that we still need to talk about, the fact that women are randomly being attacked on nights out for a walk, out for a jog. Obviously, in Aisling Murphy's case, her tragic murder, and for the other women and girls that you mentioned, long-lasting scars for them to live with. Unfortunately, we tried to have the conversation the last time, but then it turns into, well, it's not all guys, men getting very defensive all of a sudden. Then there's motivation as it relates to the race of those that are alleged to have done this. The same people are saying nothing about yesterday's attack because the person spoke with an Irish accent. No messages today saying, making comments as to where people are from. That hasn't happened today. We can't seem to just have the conversation without people applying it to other scenarios or feeling very defensive, and that's really unfortunate, I think, because our the women that are listening to us, or our daughters, or our sisters, or our aunts, or our mothers, these are the ones that are just getting randomly attacked on a night out, or walking down the street, or going for a jog. And we need to be able to have that conversation, I think, and sort that out without everyone trying to attribute it to a different situation or getting very defensive about it. Okay, it's an important issue. If you want to text in on that, you know the numbers. We'll be back with more on the programme after we get the bingo numbers. Stay where you are.
It's time for Ncbi Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday the 1st of February. You're playing on the brown sheet. The reference number is S2. It's game number 5. The numbers are 80, 28, 40, 36, 82, 43, 68, 77, 37, and finally 23. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
Beat the cost of Brexit and no customs charges. Do you need a UK address? For your limited company or personal use, Space Hub in Derry can provide you with your own virtual office or mailbox. Have your post and parcels delivered to Space Hub and collect at your convenience. Also brand new 20-foot shipping containers now in stock. Ideal for all your storage needs at our Springtown and Coolmore depots. Find us on Facebook or spacehubderry.com or call 04871 878077 for details.
You were sitting on a busy train. An elderly woman got on, and even though you were tired, you gave her your seat, because it's in your nature. You know who you are, but we don't. Please get in touch and become an SVP volunteer today. Visit svp.ie. Thank you.
I am making my Holy Communion this year. And we went to Macaroni's and Ballybuffet. I got everything I needed. My dress, tiara, bag and shoes. I had an amazing time with so many beautiful dresses. And Mum was able to pay a deposit for the perfect communion dress. For your communion day, go to Macaroni's Ballybuffet.
Hi.
Right.
D. Now, I need you to give me voice number 1, and if you have voice number 1 correct, I am giving you €570. Who do you think it is?
I think it might be Dennis Taylor.
Dennis Taylor, the snooker player.
Yes.
Catherine, I can tell you, unfortunately, that voice number 1 is Dennis Taylor!
Oh my God!
Oh, Catherine!
Oh my God, I can't believe
Well
it.
done. €570
Wow.
is yours for correctly guessing Dennis Taylor.
Lovely, thanks so much.
Good on you. What's your favourite show on Highland Radio?
Sunny Side Up, of course.
That's the correct answer. Listen, well done.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here in Highland Radio. It is Tuesday, the 1st of February 2022, and it is time for another edition of our Community Gardai information slot. And we're joined in studio this week by Gardai Niall Maguire. Thank you very much for joining us, Niall. It's good to have you in.
Thank you very much, Greg.
Right, okay, we will start with a renewed appeal. It was the subject of a national appeal last night, and that's as it relates to the awful murder of Sean Duffy.
Yeah, this is going back 17 years, the anniversary on the Saturday the 29th of January 2005. So my colleagues in Milford are investigating the fatal attack on Sean Duffy, who was murdered when he was 36 years old. Sean was out socialising in the Strand View Bar in Mahray on Friday the 28th of January 2005. He then continued on to socialise at a house in Mina Cross, Dunlow, and returned to his own home at approximately 2:30 in the morning. His body was discovered in the home shortly before 2:30 p.m. that afternoon, so 12 hours later. My colleagues in Milford continue to appeal for information in this case and believe that a number of people have yet to come forward and may now be in a position to assist in bringing those responsible to justice. You know, people's allegiances may have changed, and with the passage of time, some person may now feel that they have something that they could bring to the table. Anyone with information, please contact my colleagues in Milford, 074 9153060, or indeed the Gardai confidential line on 1800 666 111.
Now, presumably, obviously, you know, there is a sense that there are people that have out there that have information, and they've been carrying that for a long time, you know, and no matter who you are, that's going to weigh heavily on you. You're saying there is an opportunity now for them to choose this time to come forward to relieve themselves of that burden, and to help get justice here, to help get answers for the investigation, of course, but primarily Mr. Duffy's family.
Yeah, the detective branch firmly believe that there is people that are withholding information at the moment, and you know, with the passage of time, they may be able to come towards us now and help us out with this and help the family out.
Okay, now there was also an appeal last night as it relates to an aggravated burglary. What's the story here?
Yeah, this is a sinister one, Greg. My colleagues in Moncranner are continuing to investigate an aggravated burglary, which is opposed to a regular burglary, and the difference being that force was used and people were in the house at the time. This occurred on Saturday the 11th of December between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. at Mina Harnish, Ballymagan, Buncrana. Entry was gained by force to a house that was occupied by a lady and her granddaughter at that location by a couple of males, and these males remained in the house in question for quite a long period of time, which is very unusual, Greg. It's not something that we come across very often. No injuries were reported, but the two female occupants were very understandably shaken and traumatised as a result of the ordeal. A number of belongings were stolen from the house during the course of the burglary, namely a gold chain and locket, a silver-coloured brooch with a red stone, and a small sum of money. The first suspect is described as being in his mid-30s, of average build and height. He wore a dark grey Under Armour tracksuit bottoms, a dark hoodie with the hood up, dark gloves, no mask, and he had a northern accent. The second suspect is described as being in his early 20s, of smaller build and height. He wore black Nike shoes with 3D lines across the top, a knee-length puffer coat, a blue disposable face mask, blue gloves, and he also spoke with a northern accent. So we're appealing to anybody who was in the Ballymagan area between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. on the 11th of December, and maybe who had dash cam, to make the footage available to the Gardai. We are particularly interested in any sightings of dash cam footage of the following vehicle: a black Volkswagen Passat, possibly a 2005 to 2011 model, Northern Irish registration plates. We're appealing for sightings of this vehicle from the time period of 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. on the 11th of December on the road from Menaharnish, Cairnbray, Quigley's Point, Tour Street, and on into Muff and along the Donegal-Derry border. So again, please contact maybe the investigating team in Buncrana, 074 9320 540 or 1800 666 111.
I mean, there's a lot of good information in there as it relates to, descriptions and vehicles. It should not be beyond, if this appeal reaches the right ears, it shouldn't be beyond us to get some good information in relation to that one.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I'm not sure the motivation behind this. You know yourself, Greg, from us coming in and making appeals to burglaries. It is unusual.
It's in and out normally, really, isn't it?
It's in and out, yeah. Or usually the house is unoccupied and there's very little danger to the occupants,
Okay, right. Now we're going to focus on another burglary, this time in Letterkenny.
Yeah, a more traditional burglary, if I could say that, in the Green Ballymacool, Letterkenny, on Wednesday the 26th of January between midnight and 2:40 p.m. So at the Green Ballymacool, the back door of the property was smashed and entry was gained. A substantial sum of cash, unfortunately, and a HP laptop and a Haichika 18-volt cordless drill were stolen during the course of the burglary. So any residents or anyone who may have observed anything suspicious on Wednesday the 26th of January between midnight and the following afternoon at the Green and Ballymacool, please contact the Gardai in Letterkenny.
All right, now it's over to Moville and criminal damage.
Yeah, back to Buncrana again. The guards are appealing for information in relation to a criminal damage incident at Ardfoyle, Moville, between Saturday the 22nd of January 9 a.m. and Sunday the 23rd of January 3 p.m. Damage was caused to a car at that location between those times. An attempt was made to set one of the car tyres on fire and the windscreen was cracked. So anybody that can help the guards in Buncrana, 074 9320 540.
Okay, now we're talking about criminal damage in Letterkenny again this time.
Yeah, Ardnaree estate on the Long Lane in Letterkenny on Saturday the 29th of January between 7 p.m. and 7:15 p.m, so just a 15-minute window. The residents at this house heard a loud bang, only to discover that the sitting room window had been smashed by a rock. So I was listening to your show earlier, Greg, and I heard that chap ringing in from Termon, and you were mentioning about windows being smashed. Very traumatic for somebody having sitting watching TV or whatever in the evening time, and then their window being broken in, by a rock or whatever, and somebody could have been badly injured.
Yeah.
And this happens frequently, unfortunately. So my colleagues in Letterkenny can be reached on 9167 100. So anybody in the Ardnaree or Long Lane area that can help us between 6:45 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. on the 29th of January, please give us a shout.
Now, obviously, you heard the conversation earlier on as it relates to what these people are going through in Termon. I don't think those responsible realise that it's so distressful. I'm not asking you to comment on that specifically, but I mean, more generally, obviously, parents don't want that knock on the door, or guardians don't want knock on the door saying that your young person is involved in this type of activity. I mean, it's advisable from, and this would be advice coming from Gardai, for parents to find out have their children or younger people been involved in this and to discontinue, because if you have a pattern of behavior where you think this is okay, what do you do when you're 20 or 21 or 22 or 23? So it's it would be in our interest if it was our young people to say, right, cop yourself on, this is not acceptable behavior.
Yeah, well, they see it. They don't see the what's happening, to this, the trauma that's causing to people. They see it as a bit of fun, or a bit of recreation for them, even knocking people's doors and running away. I'd appeal to the parents, just like that gentleman said earlier. Know where your kids are at all times, please. Especially, like, this happened, I think, on one occasion at 11:30 at night. So, yeah, kids of that age should be in bed, at 11:30 on a school night. So,
yeah, okay, right. Slurry spreading season has begun.
Yeah, this time of year, 1st of February, the slurry spreading starts, and I suppose just maybe like to make a few points on it, if I could, Greg. There's going to be a lot more tractors and trailers on the road, and so if you're, be patient if you're behind a slurry tanker, and don't attempt to overtake in a dangerous manner. Keep a lookout in relation to farmyards and stuff, and exiting fields, because the farmers are under pressure this time of year as well, and the farmers themselves, just I want to remind them of a few things as well. Don't let the traffic build up behind you too much, because people do get impatient. Try and pull in if it's safe to do so. Don't use your mobile phone when you're driving a tractor. It's very important, because you're driving a machine that could be 15, 20 tons, whatever, and everything's changed. Then the dynamic of the vehicle's changed. So please don't. I'm appealing directly to farmers. Please don't use your mobile phone when you're on the public road. Wash down your vehicles and trailers, and to keep the muck and the slurry off the roads. You're required to have the proper lights and clean lights as well, so that they're visible at all times. We have had fatal accidents in the country before, where we had slurry tankers being crashed into from the rear, because at night time the lights were completely obscured by muck. Brakes, very essential bit of a kit when you're towing that kind of weight as well, Greg. And it's tempting for farms maybe to let maybe younger, more inexperienced children of relatives drive vehicles. So don't chance it or risk it. Make sure they're familiar with the equipment. And slurry itself, there's two particular risks. I don't need to tell farmers this, but we've seen it so many times. Drowning and gas poisoning from slurry. But maybe just as a reminder, maybe to remind visitors to the farm that wouldn't be familiar with slurry and tanks and stuff. Never leave them unaccompanied when there's slurry and slurry tanks open.
All right, some other interesting points, actually, because we were talking about an issue where people had branches come down on their vehicles, regardless of whether it's a slurry tank or whatever, or you're drawing hay. Make sure that you're not overloaded and you're not clipping cables or branches. And an interesting one, large farm vehicles should consider using an escort.
Yeah, well,
is that practical? Do you think?
No, that wouldn't be for slurry tanks. Now, that would be for combine harvesters and things like that are over a certain width. I think that there's a legal requirement for having a permit on the road for width of vehicles, and that is applied for through the county council. But it wouldn't apply to 99% of the farmers in Donegal. It's for huge machinery. I think it's over 2 meters.
Right. Okay, and I'm sure that information will be republished on the Gardai Síochána Donegal Facebook page. Right. Every day should we say for Internet Day?
Yeah,
constant nuisance, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the Safer Internet Day takes place next Tuesday, the Tuesday, 8th of February, and it's something that we can't as parents wing it anymore, because the kids are buying and selling this in relation to maybe hiding what they're at or what they're looking at online and what's been shared with them. So there is a website, webwise.ie. I've had a good look at it, and it's in collaboration with the Department of Justice as well, and it's a good resource for parents to look at so that they can maybe update themselves on sort of the latest bits and pieces.
Because you might think they're still on Facebook or Instagram, but they might be 9 times out of 10 on TikTok. And you can't have a conversation if you don't understand that.
Yeah. Parents need to be aware maybe of the minimum ages for certain apps and things, like Snapchat, I think it's 13, Facebook, I think it's 16. This comes up all the time, and it can lead to horrific or horrendous experiences for a child, because you've got a global network of people that are preying on children, and just because you're in rural Donegal or whatever, that does not leave them safe from one little bit.
The hashtag Talk, Listen, Learn campaign, that's a part of this, isn't it?
Yeah, that encourages parents to talk with their children about the benefits and risks associated with the internet, but also to listen to what their child has to say and how they feel about the internet. And there's a free online webinar for Safer Internet Day that takes place beforehand on Monday the 7th of February at 11 a.m. This event will explore how to support parents and children online, and there's a link to register for the event, and that's accessed through Webwise Ireland Facebook page or on their website webwise.ie.
All right, great stuff. And there's loads of tools on webwise.ie too that parents can employ. Listen, thank you very much as always, Niall. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
Okay, that was the community got information slot for this Tuesday, the 1st of February. We'll be back with the item again after the 10 o'clock news next Tuesday. And we'll be back on this programme today after the break.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
At Irish Life, we've been helping people make smart investments with their nest egg for over 80 years. For actual trusted advice, search irishlife.ie or contact your financial broker or advisor. We know Irish Life. We are Irish Life. Irish Life Financial Services is tied to Irish Life Assurance for life and pension products. Irish Life Assurance plc is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Irish Life Financial Services Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
For all your pharmacy needs and healthcare advice at this time, McGee's Chemist are here to help. Things may be a bit different right now, but you can always rely on McGee's. Prescriptions can be ordered over the phone or online at mcgees.ie, and you'll be contacted when it's ready for collection. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny, and at mcgees.ie, here to help with your health and well-being.
Woohoo! It's back! The Holy in the Sun, September 26th to October 3rd. Contact Cassidy Travel Dublin or visit declanerney.com.
Years ago, I used to dread my motor insurance renewal. Then a friend told me about O'Malley Scanlon Insurance in Ballybofey and Dunlow. They do all the hard work. They contact all the major insurance underwriters and they get the very best possible quote for me. They have saved me a small fortune over the years, and they could do the same for you.
When your insurance comes up for renewal, contact O'Malley Scanlon Insurance at their Ballybofey office on 9131020 or their Dunlow office on 952206. O'Malley Scanlon is regulated by the Central Bank.
In harsh winter weather, Watson Hire have all you need to stay safe and keep warm. There's great deals on coal, Calor gas, firewood and heating oil with free local delivery. Also electric, fan, halogen and oil-filled heaters. See in-store and the fuel store at watsonhire.ie. Great offers on winter clothing and boots. And for any hire items, there's still the weekend hire deal of 3 days for the price of one. All at Watson Hire, Kiltoy, Letterkenny, with free parking at the door.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price sale. Get up to 50% off everything in store. All kitchen and bathroom tiles, all wood flooring, all bathware, all cladding, everything's reduced. It's our biggest ever sale. The Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price January sale. Stores nationwide. Sale extended until Sunday.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time.
The time is 10:32. You're welcome back to the programme. Couple of requests here now for a popular guy this morning. It's Billy Conn. Hi there, could you wish my granda, Billy Conn from Tandarigee, Clonmany, a happy 70th birthday from Kiva and Corey and all the Doherty family. Another one for you, Billy. This time the message is, hope you're recovering from your big night dancing on Saturday night. Lots of love. Your granddaughters, Shannon and Madison. Lovely name, Madison. Okay, right. We'll be back with much more in the 9 till noon show after we take this from Duran Duran. And this is Rio. All right, that is Rio from Duran. Okay, more on the programme coming up after these.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
Fuse box gone haywire. Water pressure too weak. Boiler finally gone kaput. The good news is, there's a local hero for that. Boilers, plumbing, electrics, locks and drainage. Take the hassle out of home repairs with localheroes.ie. Our online service connects you with trusted tradespeople in your area, and all work comes with a 12-month guarantee, backed by Bord Gosh Energy. Get a quote in minutes at localheroes.ie. Terms and conditions apply.
Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. Milford Retail Park now open. Large range of wall and floor tiles on display and in stock. Over 70 different laminate floors to suit every pocket. Tilers and wood footers available. New bathware showroom now open. Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. 083 091 0707.
Oh, your dad sent a holiday photo of them in Northern Ireland.
There's a few.
How much did they get up to?
They're still coming. Hey, why aren't we on holidays?
With so much on offer, from helicopter tours soaring above the Causeway coastal route and crossing the Fermanagh Lakes on an Ironwater taxi, to gripping history tours of Crumlin Road Jail, planning what you'll do next is easy at discovernorthernireland.com. Just try not to make the rest of the family too jealous. Northern Ireland, a small step to a giant adventure. When planning and visiting, please double check your bookings and always follow current COVID-19 travel restrictions. Available at nidirect.gov.uk.
Store and Go Springtown Dairy, the north of Ireland's only temperature-controlled smart access individually sized storage units.
Store and Go offers storage for personal storage, house moves and renovations. Business storage for excess stock or filing systems. Once signed up, you can access 24 hours a day through an app on your phone, gaining access through 4 levels of security to your most precious possessions.
Call Store and Go Springtown Dairy on 02871 278 900 to discuss your needs and get bespoke advice, or get a free quote at storeandgo.net.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Now, as you may be aware, Donegal County Council's monthly meeting was adjourned for a week yesterday without even agreeing the minutes of a meeting of July. In July. The meeting saw Councillor Frank McBurty suspended from all council, committee and municipal district meetings for a month. He also faces a 10% cut in his pay and expenses for 12 months. A cycle of disruptions and adjournments also meant the co-option of Johnny McGuinness to replace his late father Bernard did not go ahead. As it turns out, he was unable to make that meeting Monday. It reconvenes next Monday, and presumably at that point he'll be able to be co-opted in person. Right, obviously Donald Kavanagh was at that meeting yesterday. He joins us now. Hiya, Donald.
Greg, how are you?
Right, so what is the background to this? Because, Frank McBurty wanted matters discussed, and this first emerged at a prior meeting.
Yeah, Councillor McBurty obviously has taken a very keen interest in the issue of Micah, and he has a number of questions that he's been raising with Council for quite some time, several of them relating to the purchase of a number of houses by the Council in Inishowen that subsequently turned out to be affected by Micah, and those that issue has been in the public domain for several months now. Councillor McBurty has been consistently asking questions.
When you say they subsequently turned out to have Micah,
what did the Council know and when did the Council know it?
Okay,
and that essentially is what Councillor McBurty is asking. Now, at a meeting in July, there had been a series of questions raised by the Councillor, and in July he was again he raised those questions, and during the course of a discussion, the phrase systemic corruption in Donegal County Council was mentioned in a public forum. Now, immediately the Cathaoirleach Councillor Jack Murray and the Chief Executive asked him to provide evidence, and there were some discussions, and he was asked to provide evidence of what he was claiming by the end of January, which obviously was yesterday. The meeting opened, and there were a number of minutes of previous meetings to be approved. First of all, the budget meeting, and then the next was to approve the meeting that took place in July. And what basically happened was Councillors Gary Doherty and Nicholas Crossan both said, there was a mention of systemic corruption at a meeting in the past. A provision was made that, any evidence would be produced by the end of January. What's the situation?
Now, before we get on to that, okay, Councillor McBurty is an elected representative. Yes. He has concerns. He claims to have evidence. there are reports into these type of matters that have been gathering dust down the country for a long time. A lot of people would wonder where they are. So what I'm trying to get at is it the fact that the council the council process is set out in such a way that his concerns can't be explored at an average monthly meeting?
What the council is saying and has been saying, and members of the executive have said, is that the issue of the specific issue of the 5 houses is being investigated and reports will be presented in due course. Councillor McPherty has not been heretofore happy with the answers he's been given to those questions. He continues to press the matter. He's raising other matters as well in terms of Micah and in terms of the council's response and in terms of, and he's raised several questions with the council about the Micah issue. As I said, he takes a very keen interest in it. He obviously has not been happy with the responses he's been getting, and he's not been happy with the processes that are in place in the council at the moment. There was talk of evidence being presented by Councillor McBurty of this systemic corruption that he referred to in the past. So he was asked to do so by the end of January. Now this is where there, and I have to be honest, I cannot answer this question because the impression given, no one from the executive spoke yesterday at all on this issue. The Cathaoirleach, Councillor Murray, said that these allegations were taken very seriously, and he was speaking about the need for evidence. Now, immediately Councillor McBurty raised a folder, a very substantial folder, a box of files in the air, and says, there's your evidence, come and take a look at it. He also referenced that he had sent emails to the chief executive. Now, whether those emails contained documentary evidence or what those emails contained, we don't know. I mean, Councillor McBurty has sent emails to various members of the media over the months, but we don't know what was in these emails.
They are, to a great extent, because I've went through quite a few of them, if it's the same information, they are responses to freedom of information requests, which is, for the most part, I imagine, council documentation and conversation.
Yeah. So
really, then you present that same information back to the council.
Yeah. And he's now Councillor McBurty is claiming that some of the documentation he has and some of the things he has said to the chief executive, that effectively to him, presumably that, as far as he is concerned, constitutes what he has described as systemic corruption. Councillor Micheál Cullen McGlassbach also made similar claims, but he sort of rolled back on them slightly at the meeting in describing what he meant. And he was more speaking of inaction and lack of impetus than necessarily corruption, but he rolled back slightly. Councillor McBurty hasn't. He's very much been pushing this. The Cathaoirleach ruled from the chair that Councillor McBurty yesterday was being disruptive. Councillor McBurty took grave exception to that. He raised the question several times, are you a member of An Garda Síochána? What mandate do you have to investigate anything? Now, to which point the meeting adjourned.
But if that is the argument, though, then that maybe is not the right that is not the right forum to investigate such matters. Because if you're saying to the Cathaoirleach, you're not a guard, you can't investigate this. Presumably, regular monthly meetings then to extend that theory would not be the position, the place to investigate in inverted commas such serious allegations.
And we know Councillor McBurty is seeking legal advice on a number of issues, and I think he's made it quite clear in the past he believes there needs to be inquiries, and I suspect he believes ultimately that there are issues he has of concern to him that he would want to see investigated by a third party, be that on Garda Síochána or be that a tribunal or whatever. I mean, that did not come up at the meeting, but it would appear on the face of it, certainly, that nothing the Cathaoirleach said was going to be satisfactory to Councillor McBurty. That was quite clear. And there was no confidence in the chair expressed by Councillor McBurty. So we got into this sort of, as I described it in the script I wrote, a cycle of adjournments and disruptions where there was a clear conflict between Councillor McBurty and the chair.
Now, I'm not. I've heard it threatened at previous council meetings, but to suspend a member from all meetings for a month, the scope was there to go as far as 3 months.
Yes.
But the minimum was adopted, and also a 10% cut in pay and expenses for 12 months. I can't recall ever reading of this. I can't ask you, is this unprecedented? But, you've been around a long time.
I've been covering council meetings for 31 years. I certainly have not seen this ever crop up on Donegal County Council before.
So what happens now next week? Because, these are public meetings. They're open to the public. If Councillor McBurty is suspended from attending as an elected representative, there is clearly, I would imagine, nothing to stop him attending as a member of the public, in inverted commas, and making his views known from the galleries.
That it may well be that Councillor McBurty could enter the meeting as a member of the public. Whether he would be satisfied to do that, whether he would intend to do that, I don't know. My impression that I get from him is that he does not accept the legality or the constitutionality of the bans that have been made against him. From what he was saying, I think his intention would be to attend as a councillor, and he believes he still has a legal right to attend as a councillor, and he certainly made it quite clear that he did not accept that the standing orders had any basis in law, and he was challenging the legality and the appropriateness of the standing orders under which these decisions were taken, and certainly as far as he's concerned, I think Councillor McBurty certainly does not accept the sanctions that have been levelled against him by the council.
So in relation to the accusations he's making, are they being investigated, or just to be clear as much as we can, because obviously we don't know, we can't get in behind the closed doors of the council. But in terms of his allegations, of the executive says yes, we'll investigate that, or an investigation might happen pending the providing some evidence of your claims. Do we know clearly at all what the status is?
Based on yesterday's meeting, Greg, the unfortunate thing is at no point were the questions answered. Yeah. At no point was that. So, as I said, no one from the executive spoke. The only member of the executive to speak at all yesterday was Pastor Laverty, the county secretary, who was basically given the results of 3 recorded votes. The vote to suspend him from the meeting.
Also, and he faced questions from the floor as that was happening.
Questions were raised by Councillor McBurty. He did not answer them. There was nothing apart from these are the results of the recorded vote. Nothing was said by any member of the executive. It was the Cathaoirleach speaking, and the Cathaoirleach attempted, I think, there was a response the Cathaoirleach was attempting to give, but he never got to the end of his sentence because of interjections from the floor.
So, in terms of the vote itself, I watched a little bit of it online as well. What way did councillors vote? I think a lot of people have expressed regret. Jimmy Kavanagh earlier on that he was faced with such a vote.
It was done, and I think in fairness, councillors acted with a heavy heart. No one was happy with what was happening at that meeting yesterday. I spoke to a number of councillors over the course of the day. The first vote, which was to suspend Councillor McBurty from the meeting, that was voted 32 votes to 1 in favour of suspending. The one was Councillor Micheál Cullen McGillaspig, who said,
he supporting Councillor McBurty or opposing the process?
In fairness to opposing the process, in fairness to Councillor Micheál Cullen, what he said, and he was not present in the chamber, he was online, as were a number of other councillors, he made it quite clear that whereas he did not agree with the disruption of the meeting, he did not believe that suspension was the appropriate response.
Did he offer an alternative?
He said we should be sitting down to discuss our differences.
That was
the alternative. Yeah, okay. He did not offer any specific alternative, but to say we should all sit down and discuss this like rational adults, and try to come to some form of agreed solution. But the other 2 votes went, I think, 30 votes to 1. Councillor McBurty abstained. In fact, when the first time when on the recorded vote to suspend him from the meeting, his name was called, and his response was that he did not accept the vote, and his response was quite flowery in terms of the language used.
Right, okay. So it's really, we have to wait to see what happens next Monday now.
We do. And at this point in time where we are, and we now have an entire agenda that has not been touched. We have a councillor, a new councillor yet to be co-opted onto the meeting. And as I said, speaking to the Cathaoirleach afterwards yesterday, among the issues we have, and you know it from the programme, there's a very important piece of in the development plan regarding wind energy. That was to have gone out to public consultation yesterday. Mm-hmm. That has not now happened. Yeah. The new Letterkenny plan was to have gone out to public consultation yesterday. That's not now happened. So
it's going to be a difficult one to resolve. I mean, they'll probably end up just doing meetings online.
It is utterly possible that what we may actually see is, again, we had this once before last year. It was actually a meeting, I think it may well have been the July meeting, where what happened was the meeting initially was in Aura and it was stopped in Aura and then reconvened online 2 or 3 hours later. And whether that happens again remains to be seen. It could yet be the case.
Okay, listen, thanks for that, Donal. I appreciate it greatly. Donal Kavanagh there, who was present and reporting on that meeting yesterday. A caller says, who give the councillors the right to suspend Frank McBurty? He's got questions that should be answered. Well, the
standing orders. What the Cathaoirleach will say is the standing orders are very specific. Now, as I said, Councillor McBurty has challenged the legality and appropriateness of those standing orders, but the standing orders of council say if a member is being disruptive, there are things you can do. The first thing, you can suspend them from the meeting. The second thing, if they refuse to leave, you may then impose that 10% sanction.
And of course, in terms of the word disruptive, there's going to be different interpretations of that. But listen, Donald,
the standing order would see the interpretation of the interpretation of the chair is what the standing order would.
Okay, thanks, Donald. Another caller says, absolutely disgraceful, being punished for doing the right thing, which is what happened to Frank McBurty in Donegal County Council, says another texter. More on the way.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
Ireland's biggest ever tribute weekend is coming back to Donegal. Tribash 2022 is taking place at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny on the 11th and 12th of February. The nation's leading tribute acts take to the stage with a fantastic award-winning Johnny Cash and June Carter tribute show, Cash Returns. The amazing Jim the King Brown as Elvis, the one and only ABBA tribute, the Bjorn Identity, and the show-stopping Queen tribute. Limited tickets available now at the hotel reception and online at eventbrite.ie. Tribash 2022 at the Clanry Hotel, Letterkenny. Your ideal Valentine's weekend.
Every year in the GAA, something unique happens. First-class rivals suddenly become first-class teammates. Fierce inter-county foes turn into friends, and yesterday's opponents now have each other's backs. Grudges set aside, all of the best club and county players from every corner of this country line out in their college or university jerseys to play together, challenge together and win together. It can only be the Electric Ireland Sigerson, Fitzgibbon and Higher Education Championships.
Does your home need a fresh coat for a fresh start? Foy & Company in Ballybuffet and Letterkenny stock all the leading paint brands and wallpapers, all available for nationwide delivery. Let the Foy & Company team help you create the perfect colour scheme for your home and lifestyle, guiding you through the process of selecting the right paint for your indoor or outdoor space. Book your free online or in-store colour consultation today at foys.ie. Foy & Company in Ballybuffet and Letterkenny.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Ronaldo, De Bruyne, Cavani. You can now see both Manchester teams in action with Ryanair's twice-weekly service to Manchester. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Okay, today will be breezy, mostly cloudy with limited bright or sunny spells, scattered outbreaks of light rain or drizzle, turning more persistent in the evening, mild with afternoon temperatures of 10 to 12 degrees and a fresh to strong westerly wind. Now, someone more affected by the will it, won't it, leaving cert debacle joined us last year. It's India. Good morning to you and thanks for rejoining. No, we've lost India there. We'll get her back in a moment, okay? A caller says, is it legal for tractors to have big lights on the back of the cab blinding cars coming from behind? I don't know if that's legal or not. So, okay, let's get back to India. Hi, India.
Hi, Greg. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Right, now, so last year when we were talking to you, it was the same kind of situation. You know, will they, won't they, by hook or by crook and all that kind of stuff. Eventually, they went ahead with a predicted grade system. You did your leaving cert last year. Once you found out what you were doing, how did it work for you?
Well, I suppose as you mentioned, I was on last year and we were lucky enough that we were told that we would get the hybrid leaving cert, but it was not an easy road to get there. Like, we really had to fight for it, and it was weeks and weeks of uncertainty and stress that really didn't need to happen, to be honest. I mean, once we got the news, some of the teachers were concerned about the predicted grades and how they may affect us, but I was just glad that I knew what was happening, and I felt that at the time it was the best option for everybody. Now, people that worked hard over the 2 years, they fared out the best because they didn't really have to sit the exams, or they had more of kind of a leeway. I sat 4 exams. I was supposed to sit 5, but I was sick for one of them. And the 2 I didn't sit, I was actually downgraded in, but at least we knew what was happening. But I think overall,
predictive grades, really, the system last year, although you broadly welcome it, it did you a disservice. You lost points, really, didn't you?
I lost about 50 points, around about 50 points. Now, the first year, the predicted grade system was not perfect because, it was kind of just thrown together last minute. The second year, fair enough, they were still finding tweaks in it, but the promise that was made was that the leaving cert for this year would not have to go through what we went through. And it's ridiculous that they're going into their mocks having to worry about whether or not their mocks will be used as their leaving cert. the uncertainty is just not necessary.
And as you quite rightly point out too, the predictive grade system, if you are the type of student that really bangs it out, a few weeks or months in front of an exam, it's not going to work well for you if they reflect on exams over the course of the last year or two and you didn't do very well in them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you're the kind of, like, I think the last 3 years have really shown how the Leaving Cert is just not fit for purpose. Not everybody can sit at a desk for 5 hours at a time and read a book cover to cover. But I think that the predicted grade system allows that kind of fluidity for students that can sit at a desk for hours at a time, or students that work better with tasks that are spread out.
But that being said, India, you got your position, the course that you wanted, which is great. A lot of people missed out though because of inflated grades too, though, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean how the points jumped was scary. Like, I was so lucky that I was offered my course with the points that I got, but there was a lot of heartbreak the day that the results came out, and I think that was due to not enough college places and people that deferred in the first year. But I think that if this system, I mean, it's all well and good saying ifs and buts, if this system if they had sat down in September and said, right, we need to do something about the Leaving Cert, I think that would have given the colleges more opportunities to allow for more places. But, the promise was made last year that this wouldn't happen, and it really shouldn't be. It's not fair on the Leaving Certs. It's not fair on the teachers.
Yeah.
It's not fair on anybody.
But also, too, you talked about deferring, and I've tried to make this point a couple of times on this programme. I would wonder how Leaving Certs, the class of 2022, will fare with their, exams that they sit, and of course obviously the disruptive learning. They're going to be competing for college places against maybe 1 or 2 years of people that deferred with arguably inflated points.
Yeah, I mean, the backlog, I'd say, is still insane. Like, people that would have deferred last year didn't get their points, and I think that needed to be taken into consideration when the decision was made. And I think that key factor is not being brought up enough, and then you have the problems with housing. Even if you do get your place, the housing is
that's it. More college places, you need more rooms, and that ain't happening.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, with everything that you know now, and you can be a little bit selfish because you got one version, and it's okay if you have a different view. With everything that you know, do you think they should still go with a hybrid this year, or do we have to reset at one point and have traditional Leaving Certs again, and unfortunately it has to be this year?
I think that the last 3 years have shown that the Leaving Cert is not fit for purpose.
But we can't overhaul it, India. Would you go with hybrid or traditional this year?
I would go with hybrid, but I would ensure that every tweak that happened last year was ironed out.
Yeah.
The bell curve, our English teacher had the greatest saying, the bell curve will always hold, and that was about inflated points. And we thought she was mad, but she was right. And I think that needs to be looked into more. The algorithms need to be worked out more. But I think that this year something needs to be looked at to change the course of the Leaving Cert completely, so that in years to come they're not battling through we, won't we? Yeah,
let's not waste the old saying. Well, it's not old, but it's overused now. Don't waste a crisis. This is the chance now to. We see the problems, we see the stresses. We're hearing from students more than we ever did. The Leaving Cert as is not fit for purpose.
No, definitely not. And it's not fair that students have to fight and fight and fight. Leaving Cert year is stressful enough. And the mental health of students shouldn't be second to a traditional Leaving Cert, which is outdated and not fit for purpose.
All right, India, listen, continued success with your course in Belfast, studying politics and international studies. Great to chat to you again. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, take care of yourself. Bye-bye. Okay, a busy third hour of the show. Stay right where you are. You won't want to miss it. Plenty to keep you entertained. But at 11 o'clock, it's time for a news update. And we cross over now and say good morning once again to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Gardai have described the targeting of an elderly woman and her granddaughter in Buncrana as sinister. Investigations are continuing into the aggravated burglary on December the 11th at Mina Harnish at Ballymaggan. Between 4 and 6 a.m, a number of men gained entry by force to the house, where they remained for some time. No injuries were reported, but the women were left shaken and traumatised. The Green Party leader says an exam-only format for this year's Leaving Cert is the fairest option. The hybrid approach, giving sixth years a choice of calculated grades, isn't expected to be adopted. Instead, the Cabinet is considering proposals which will see students offered a greater choice of questions. A serious mistake that shouldn't have happened. That's the verdict of the Foreign Affairs Minister to the champagne celebration by staff at his department during COVID restrictions. 4 officials have agreed to pay €5,000 between them to charity following an internal investigation. Minister Simon Coveney believes that is sanction enough and says the spontaneous event is in no way comparable to the parties we've heard about at Downing Street. Well, the UK Labour leaders accused the British Prime Minister of taking the public for mugs after a report into alleged Downing Street parties found there was a failure of leadership. Boris Johnson seems to have calmed the anger of his own MPs, with a meeting last night being described as positive. A substantial sum of money and a number of high-value items have been stolen during a burglary in Letterkenny. Between 12:30am and 2:40pm on Wednesday last, the back door of a house in the area of the Green Ballymacool was smashed and entry gained. Gardai are appealing to other residents or anyone who may have observed any suspicious activity in the area at the time to contact Gardai. Meanwhile, investigations are ongoing into a number of criminal damage incidents in Donegal in recent weeks. In one instance, significant damage was caused to a car in Moville, while in Letterkenny, a window of a property was smashed by a rock. And work is underway to identify a site for a municipal graveyard in Letterkenny. Calls for such a facility have been made by the Cahirlock of the Letterkenny-Milford Municipal District for some time. Councillor Jimmy Kavanagh believes a multi-denominational burial ground is vital as the size of the town continues to grow, as well as to meet the demand being placed on existing graveyards. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
OK, Michaela, thank you very much. Back after the break.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most cost-effective way. Simply sign up to our new job spot and we will tell our listeners about your vacancies both on air and online. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during our primetime shows, we will broadcast the latest job opportunities across the Northwest and into counties Derry and Tyrone. All job listings will be available online at highlandradio.com. For more information, contact the advertising team on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, we're here for you.
Beat the cost of Brexit and no customs charges. Do you need a UK address? For your limited company or personal use, Space Hub in Derry can provide you with your own virtual office or mailbox. Have your post and parcels delivered to Space Hub and collect at your convenience. Also brand new 20-foot shipping containers now in stock. Ideal for all your storage needs at our Springtown and Coolmore depots. Find us on Facebook or spacehubderry.com or call 04871 878077 for details.
With the onset of different variants of coronavirus, it is vital that your business, office or school has the most up-to-date air purification device. McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Tiles introduce the Daikin Air Purifier. It eliminates 99.9% of coronaviruses in under 3 minutes. Ideal for residential settings, offices, classrooms and waiting rooms. Priced at €495, it's a great investment. For more details, contact McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Tiles Buncrana. We're only a phone call or email away.
It's Derek Ryan live at the Millennium Forum Derry on Saturday the 26th of February. Derek will be joined by special guests Olivia Douglas and Owen Mack. Last remaining tickets are available now from millenniumforum.co.uk. That's Derek Ryan live at the Millennium Forum, Saturday the 26th of February.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. And we welcome onto the programme now Vicky McGrath, who's CEO of Rare Diseases Ireland. Thank you very much for joining us, Vicky. It's nice to speak to you.
And you, Greg. Thank you.
So how do we classify rare diseases? Do you know, because there are, lots of diseases that are relatively rare, if you know what I mean. So is there a particular group of diseases that sort of would qualify as being described as rare diseases?
So rare diseases are defined at an EU or a European level as being less than 1 in 2,000 people. So a condition that might affect less than 1 in 2,000 people. In Ireland, there are examples of many rare diseases, but I guess the most prominent, or one of the most prominent ones that we would think of, would be something like cystic fibrosis. And actually, the incidence in Ireland is higher than 1 in 2,000. But when we think across all of Europe, it goes down to 1 in 2,000. There are about 6,000 to 8,000 different rare diseases documented at this stage. Some of them would be ultra rare, less than 1 in a million, or even less than that. There might only be a handful of people around the world with the particular condition. So it goes from something like cystic fibrosis right down to you'll be very unlikely to ever meet somebody with one of those conditions.
And in terms of, there's problems in the health services seemingly in a lot of countries, and I think that's been very much exposed during this pandemic, that they are not fit for purpose. Well, they are fit for purpose. Sorry, that's not fair to say. But there's serious deficits that and we've really seen that now. And a lot of people with non-rare diseases might say, it's very hard to get treatment, or it's hard to get access, and complain of delays. But people with rare diseases would report much longer delays, presumably.
Yeah, well, I guess the challenge with rare diseases is because there are so many and because they are so unusual, it's actually very difficult to even just get that first step of a diagnosis. We conducted a survey at the end of last year, and in that survey we found that about a third of people are waiting more than 5 years to even get that first step of a diagnosis. So over that 5-year period, they might visit a number of different consultants. They might go through a battery of tests. They might even be treated for different rare conditions. And then subsequently it's discovered, no, it's not that condition that you have. It must be something else. And so that's really the big challenge for people living with rare conditions.
And what's interesting about that is, Vicky, and we've spoken to a number of people affected by these. They're seeing consultants, they're seeing medical professionals, but they're not getting the diagnoses, or, as you say, they're being treated for something that turns out not to be what they're actually sick of. So is this a resources issue? Is it a mindset issue? Because often, consultants are excellent, but they might not see the woods for the trees on certain things as well. So what is is there a root cause? What do we need to be doing better?
There's probably two things in terms of, what we could do better. The first one would be genetics. So about 72%, I think it is, of rare conditions are genetic in origin. So if we could speed up the access to genetic services and get people tested earlier to try and identify and narrow down what the root cause of a particular condition might be, that would be the very first thing that I would recommend. The second thing then actually goes right back into the education system, that our medical schools are looking more towards, the big conditions, and it's, the healthcare service is very broken down by, a cardiologist looks at the heart, or a hepatologist looks at the liver, and it's trying to get that joined up thinking around, actually, this person has complications in 5 or 6 or 10 different areas, and, how do we all plug in our expertise to narrow down what it is? So, there's a lot of integrated care and joined up thinking and things like that, but I think it goes right back into the med schools to actually say, you're going to be presented with a lot of people that are going to have something that you'll only ever see once in your life, and how do we navigate that?
It's interesting the conversation about genetics, because when we talk about rare diseases, say 1 in 2,000, there are conditions that are more, you'll see more in Donegal. The rate would be much higher, for example. Okay,
yes.
You look at it nationally and you say, well, it's relatively rare. And I've spoken to people involved in genetics, and there are conditions in Donegal that the prevalence is way higher than the 1 in 2,000, and we know that because of genetics, and it's rooted in genetics. Should we be generally exploring that? I think you've pretty much called for that already, but exploring that, and maybe looking at this with more finesse than we do.
Definitely. So yeah, I think the typical example, I guess, from the northwest, from the Donegal region, would be amyloidosis. That a lot of people coming from Donegal will have that, and so you'll find that there are people, I guess, all around the world that when they look back at their family trees or whatever, they'll discover actually there was Donegal roots in there at some stage, and so that's the root cause for their condition. So I think there are lots of, I guess, when you're studying medicine in Dublin or Galway or wherever around the country or around the world, but you end up practicing in the northwest of Ireland, you need to maybe tailor a little bit of the education around, right, you're here now, you need to update your skills on what happens locally as well with some of these conditions, because there are geographical variations. So yeah, there's lots that can be done, and it's trying to get all of that joined up thinking, but
And it can be a little bit frustrating, because what we have seen is, if there is a will, there is a way.
Yes.
And it must be incredibly frustrating for more common diseases as well as rare diseases to say, well, hold on, why did we not throw the kitchen sink at this particular issue?
Oh, I don't know. I guess the first thing is that people get into their comfort zones, I'm guessing, and they're kind of like, well, we know how to treat this, and so we're going to stick, and this is my area of expertise, and I as you say, throwing the kitchen sink at everything. I guess it is the rare conditions and the need for research and innovation in those spaces. There is more kitchen sinks, I guess, being thrown at some of this. There is more hope for people living with rare conditions. There's a lot of research that's been undertaken in the last, 10, 15, 20 years, and, there's therapies coming along. So, I guess I would be optimistic that, the researchers working together will find ways to deal with some of these conditions, with more of them, and that there will be more hope in the future. But it's a slow process, I guess. And when you don't come across conditions, when you don't hear about them, you just presume that doesn't exist or that doesn't happen. And it's one of our big challenges in Rare Diseases Ireland is just creating awareness generally for rare conditions, that actually 1 in 17 people, about 300,000 people in Ireland, are estimated to live with rare conditions, and that's the Republic, with another, I guess, 100,000 plus from Northern Ireland. And the person next door to you could well have one of those conditions. It's not visible on the surface. It's not something that you can necessarily see.
And if it isn't, people generally
recognize.
And if it isn't, people generally tend not to talk about it. That's my experience of talking to people, because they get is, sure, you look grand, everything's, what are you on about? At least you're not dead. All that kind of stuff that might be well intended, but I can imagine that's why people with a rare disease or chronic pain that's not visible keep their mouths shut.
Yes, absolutely. And ironically, actually, I just read something. I got a message from somebody in Donegal talking about just that kind of like, I'm between a rock and a hard place. I'm not sick enough to get this, but I'm too sick to do this. And it's kind of like,
probably
come on,
trying
guys.
to keep a family together and put on a brave face for people as well. That's the reality. So there's an awful lot in there, but I know the focus of a recent press release has been to urge the government, the HSE, whomever it is, to resource genetic services in Ireland more. There are positions that are vacant. I think a lot of your respondents to a recent survey, got diagnoses successfully with when the genetics element of it was looked at. So we know it works. So
yes.
What needs to be done? I know I've opened up multiple cans of worms, but specifically in the area what we invited you on to speak to, what do you think needs to be done?
Well, the very first thing is that, there was a report done 7 years ago now around how we could establish a genetic service in the country, Genetics and Genomics Network, and that needs to happen. There are bits and pieces happening in all sorts of different areas around different specialisms, and we need to make sure that we have some joined up thinking, and that, hard cases are looked at by people that are super qualified in their particular areas, and that we establish that. And then we need, the actual consultants on the ground being able to provide the consultations, and genetic counsellors, that can provide you with family history or what might happen in different areas of the family planning and things like that. If you have a child that's suddenly diagnosed with something, can I have more children? what should I do now? And they're waiting 2, 3, 4 years to get that type of advice. And it's just unconscionable. We need to get the people, I guess, on the ground actually into these roles.
Right, so give that money tree another wee shake. Because we know it exists.
Well, yeah, in part.
Right, okay. Listen, thank you very much. If people want more information, by the way, because I do know also from speaking to people over the years on a program like this, is that sometimes you can feel that you're the only person affected by something, and then once you start networking and realizing, you can have people to talk to and share, what works for different people and all that kind of stuff. But if people want more information on Rare Diseases Ireland, where do they go? Vicky?
Well, our website is www.rdi.ie. We don't provide, I guess, a support service per se. It's literally just me and the organisation at the moment. But we can network people together. We can find the right organisations, and peer-to-peer support is incredibly helpful.
And I've kind of went from pillar to post. Is there anything important that you want to say before we say goodbye, Vicky?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to raise awareness. Rare Disease Day is at the end of February, and we hope that everybody will get involved.
All right. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us. Lovely to see you.
Thank you very much, Greg.
All right. Take care of yourself. Vicky McGrath, CEO of Rare Diseases Ireland. Right. We're busy on the phone lines today. Great to see. We see it all the time, but I never take it for granted, because you just never know. So it's wonderful that so many of you get involved, have your say. New people messaging and texting all the time. It's great, obviously, to hear regularly from people, but it's also nice when someone texts in for the first time. And all comments are welcome, even if you've never texted a radio station before. Share your point of view. Your point of view is as equal to anyone else's. 0749125,000 if you want to relate it verbally to Caroline, if texting's not your thing, or if you prefer to WhatsApp or text. You're very softly spoken today, Caroline. She's speaking into my ear. Normally it's quite aggressive, but it's very softly spoken today. Thanks, Caroline. You'd swear I have a hangover, which you don't. It's been a couple of years, it seems. But anyway, thank you, Caroline. I appreciate it greatly. Right, we are going to go straight to Louise Byrne, actually, and then we'll take an ad break. Right, Louise Byrne, political reporter with the Irish Daily Mail. Good morning to you, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Listen, what's your take on the accepted breach of restrictions at the Department of Foreign Affairs? You know, the investigation has been had. The opposition are calling for an independent investigation. Simon Coveney has got his lines now that he can lean on every time he does an interview, and that's grand because he believes the matter has been dealt with. What's your take on what we've seen so far, Louise?
Well, I suppose this report into the incident at the Department of Foreign Affairs in June 2020 has been awaited now for the last number of weeks, and it finally came out last night. But I think there are still a number of questions that need to be answered from it, and that's certainly what the opposition are saying today and last night as well. And I think one of the main questions in it is, why was Simon Coveney not interviewed as part of this report? And now Joe Hackett, the Secretary General of the Department of Foreign Affairs, he was saying that an interview with Minister Coveney was not included in the terms of reference. Mm-hmm. Now, what we do know is that Minister Coveney, and he said this again this morning, he said it a few weeks ago, he was made aware that Niall Burgess, who was the Secretary General then, he knew that Mr. Burgess had posted this picture on Twitter on the evening that it happened. And at the time he was in Ivy House, he wasn't there when the champagne corks were popping, but he was there shortly thereafter. So he was aware on the evening that this picture had been posted, but yet he wasn't spoken to as part of this report. And I think there's a lot of questions this morning as to why this wasn't included in the terms of reference.
And you know, for the public now, using words like hindsight and if I knew then what I know now and knew now what I knew then and hindsight, you know, as soon as people start hearing that, they're like, right, something's going on here. It's not a straight answer.
Yeah, and I think this has kind of been the tone of this incident for the last number of weeks. You know, Minister Coveney was on radio one day and he said at that time he didn't think that an investigation was appropriate back in June 2020 and that he didn't order it. And then a few days later, we found out that the day before he went on radio and did that interview, he had actually ordered an investigation into this. So I think, you know, Minister Coveney, he's found himself in a few sticky situations over the last number of months. You know, you had the Catherine Zepone Special Envoy, you've had this now, and the Women of Honour have been very unhappy with how that has gone on. So I think a lot of people are asking a lot of questions of Simon Coveney now at the moment.
Yes, and of course he would have been, maybe people's tips to replace Leo Varadkar, who himself has his own issues with an ongoing Gardai investigation. The impression I got from, this was my read, Louise, and I might be wrong, the impression I got from Simon Coveney in his comments was he doesn't respond, he's not responsible to Joe Hackett. He's responsible to committees. He's responsible to the Dáil, the media, the public, and that really was why he didn't think he should be interviewed. That he's not responsible to Joe Hackett, and that's why he wasn't interviewed.
Yeah, and I think something else he said this morning when he was on radio was interesting. There's been calls for an independent investigation into this, and not to have your colleague investigating this. Now he is their boss, but he still investigated it, and there was a call for an independent investigation, and Minister Coveney said he doesn't see what else there is to know here. And I think there is going to be a call now on Minister Coveney to appear in front of the Foreign Affairs Committee, and we know the support will be sent to them, and he has said before that he would be willing to go and speak to them. So whether that comes to pass now, we have to wait and see. But they're very keen to speak to him, from what I've heard from some of the members last night.
And the reason this is important is because, and we're seeing the same what's happening in Britain, although on a different scale. At these times, or at various times over this, we were being stopped by Gardai, 2.5 kilometres from our home, being asked what we're doing. We didn't meet with family. I've interviewed many people that didn't see loved ones for a couple of months. That's why this is so important. In any other time, it doesn't really matter. But so much was asked of the general population that to look at this picture is really, really offensive, because, people literally did not see brothers and sisters for years on end.
Yeah, and I think, it's in hindsight, as Minister Coveney said this morning, this is 18 months ago, and I think we've come so far that perhaps we've forgotten what we actually were asked to do back then. It was, you could meet up with 6 people from outside your household. Shops had reopened. Literally a week before this, the shops reopened. 25 people at a funeral, which, you know what an Irish funeral is like, and we know how difficult that was for people who weren't able to properly grieve their family. And the Social Democrats spokesperson on this, Gary Gannon, he said to me last night the number of emails that he has gotten from people who, they had to cancel their wedding. They couldn't grieve their mother, their father, their family members. And it's a bit of a kick to them when you think what we went through. And I think if this, with the time that has passed, perhaps people have forgotten a little bit what was happening at the time. But if this had been found out at the time, I think far more serious questions would be asked.
Yeah, and that people are more astute, or are astute. We know what Micheál Martin's reaction would be if he were in opposition. And he was in opposition, and yet people aren't hearing an awful lot from he or other senior government members in calling this out, or taking the lead on further investigation.
No, and I think what's interesting over the last couple of hours since Minister Coveney went on radio is that Fine Gael TDs in particular have been tweeting a picture of Sinn Féin at the Bobby Story funeral and saying, well, this wasn't investigated, so who were used to call for an investigation into the Department of Foreign Affairs bash. So I think it's very much a defensive, it seems. Now, Taoiseach Micheál Martin, he'll be taking leaders' questions in the Dáil this afternoon, and no doubt this will come up at some stage in the afternoon. And I think now that the report is published, I think the answer had always been, we're investigating this, and the report has been commissioned, and the report will answer all these questions you are asking me. So now that the report has been published, they don't have that to fall back on anymore. So, no real excuse not to answer questions now this afternoon.
I mean, it's hard as a political reporter, I'd imagine. It's not hard for you to stay on topic, but to cover it, because as you quite rightly pointed out, already, like something you'd see in a schoolyard, the mudslinging has started. So we end up not talking about, the core issue. We end up talking about, people in glass houses can't throw stones. It's very frustrating as a voter.
It is, and I think sometimes when these things get too personal, it takes away and it detracts from the real issue at hand and what actually happened. So I think, obviously it does need to be personal. And, the report last night, it highlighted that Mr. Burgess was, largely responsible for this gathering, and he put some of his colleagues in a very difficult position. But, I think like I said, you need to look at this in the round and what was happening at that time and what everyone else was going through. Because I think when you look at it that way, it makes the whole thing a little bit more difficult to stomach.
Yes, and there are people who made a decision and ended up in court over it, or ended up with a heavy fine. You know what I mean? They didn't make a voluntary donation to charity. They ended up, maybe being named in a local paper or something. So, that's why passions can run so high. Louise, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it greatly.
Take care.
You too. Louise Byrne, political reporter with the Irish Daily Mail.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
At Irish Life, we've been helping people make smart investments with their nest egg for over 80 years. For actual trusted advice, search irishlife.ie or contact your financial broker or advisor. We know Irish Life. We are Irish Life. Irish Life Financial Services is tied to Irish Life Assurance for life and pension products. Irish Life Assurance plc is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Irish Life Financial Services Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
I and
Right.
D.
Now, I need you to give me voice number 1, and if you have voice number 1 correct, I am giving you €570. Who do you think it is?
I think it might be Dennis Taylor.
Dennis Taylor, the snooker player.
Yeah.
Catherine, I can tell you, unfortunately, that voice number 1 is Dennis Taylor!
Oh my God!
Oh, Catherine!
Oh my God, I can't believe
Well
it.
done, €570
Wow.
is yours for correctly guessing Dennis Taylor.
Lovely, thanks so much.
Good on you. What's your favourite show on Highland Radio?
Sunny Side Up, of course.
That's the correct answer. Listen, well done.
If I learned one thing in the last year, it's that falling into debt can happen to anyone. Luckily, I heard about the ISI, the Insolvency Service of Ireland. Their professional advisors can help you restructure or even write off your debt. The first thing they said to me was, every debt problem has a solution. I can still feel the relief. So if you're worried, visit their website backontrack.ie or free text Get Help to 50015.
The ISI. Together, we'll get you back on track. This is an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
New this week in Home Store and More. All fitness is half price. But better hurry, because when all our half price fitness is gone, it's gone. Also, all rugs and all fireside accessories are still half price. But when all our half price rugs and all our half price fireside accessories are gone, they're definitely gone. Order online before 2 p.m. for next day delivery, or drop by your local Home Store and More. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Highland Radio Time Checks, brought to you by Letterkenny Shopping Centre, the centre of shopping in Donegal. Free parking and shopping all under one roof. Letterkenny Shopping Centre, bringing you the time at
28 minutes past 11. Now we welcome Anna on to the programme. Good morning to you, Anna. Thanks for taking the call today.
Good morning, Greg. It's always a pleasure to speak with you.
And you. Anna, now we are talking about what should be beautiful daffodils in Moville.
Yes.
What's
correct.
going on?
Well, I'll tell you what's going on. We are very fortunate here in Moville, Greg, to have a very good Tidy Towns committee, led mostly by Marion MacDonald. And they do great work, in an effort to keep the town tidy and neat and tidy. They go out, they gather rubbish, they plant flower boxes in various places on the approach roads and the flower baskets and all that. And there's one area you may not be aware of, a place, it's the recreation ground called, we refer to it as the Green. But along the Green there is what's known as the top path. And some years ago there was daffodils. I can tell you there was about 300 bulbs of daffodils put in along the top path in Moville. And they make a great display when they are in flower. But unfortunately, there is some individual or individuals deciding there's nice daffodils, we'll have some of those. And they are removing them before they're fully flowered. These would be daffodils that are just about to flower. And a lot of them have been cut, and it's quite evident that somebody went along with a pair of scissors. That's what it appears to me anyway. I may be wrong. but it appears to me that they've been cut with scissors. So I would just put out an appeal to the people to recognise that a lot of people do a lot of work to enhance the scenery of the town. And they're not for plucking for your table or for your sideboard or
Yeah, and
whatever.
I think, I don't think... I would imagine that people aren't thinking they're doing something very serious, Anna, that they might say, oh, they look nice, they're probably wild, or there's plenty of them, or they'll grow back and they might look nice in a vase on my kitchen table. I don't think there's anything sinister going on here. Would you agree, Anna, or am I being too generous?
I absolutely agree totally with you. So that is why I come on, just to appeal to people, not to pull them, that they're not just for pulling. But yes, I do understand that there's no malice intended.
But there is great effort in getting them in there, and we wait for them to bloom, and we want to leave them there so as you approach Muffil, it looks even more beautiful rather than, taking them and not realising perhaps the impact of what you have. And it's simple and it's to the point. Anna, thank you very much.
Okay, great.
Take care of yourself, and it just doesn't apply to Muffil. It applies to anywhere, I'm sure. Caller got a diagnosis with latent TB. Took a long time to get diagnosed. In order to get bloods done for the disease, he has to travel to Galway every time. The appointment is always for first thing in the morning. Supposed to be going for appointments every 3 months. Can't understand why there's no facility in Donegal. 5.5 hour drive to a centre in Galway just for bloods. Why is this, they say. Another caller says, where is the Mulcahy report on planning in Donegal? We all deserve to know. Well, I think I've asked, I think it's certainly 4 housing ministers where that report is now at this stage. And I've put the question to the current housing minister at least twice. So unfair, this is as it relates to the Leaving Cert, so unfair for this decision to be made about the Leaving Cert. There are 8 people living in my home, and between them having COVID and being close contacts, they've missed so much time at school. This government is a disgrace. These young people are under enough stress without this being added to. Another caller says the graveyard issue is for the County Council to provide. County Council no need to be in or near Letterkenny. It's the Council's responsibility to all the people of the county. Of course, and I understand that, but you would most likely, and I understand why you might, locate it close to the population centre. I don't come from Letterkenny, and so I'd like it closer to me, but I can understand why the population centre might be the first port of call. Right, okay. Caller says the partner is experiencing bullying in the workplace by the owner of the business, needs to work to support the family. Any tiny mistakes made and the boss comes down on them like a ton of bricks, making comments and makes workers feel extremely uncomfortable. It's affecting family life and needs to see a therapist as a result and suffering from anxiety too. I'm not sure what you would do in that situation, but I would arrange a meeting with the boss, because you know what? I know they need the job, but look at the expense there could be in medical or whatever. If there's no HR, I don't know what the size of the company. If there is HR, organise a meeting with HR and have it out with them. If not, organise a meeting even after work hours with the boss and say that you're bringing someone, an advocate with you, and sit in that formal environment and explain what's going on. With an advocate with you. It could be anyone. It doesn't have to be a union rep or whatever. Just say, I want to bring someone with me for support or to take notes or to witness what we have to say, and sit down and say there are very strict laws governing such matters, and there's no reason why someone should accept bullying in the workplace to the point where it's having a detrimental effect on their health and mental well-being. So that's what I suggest they do. It's going to be tough, because maybe the person doesn't like confrontation. That's very possible. But they're going to have to make that decision. Organise a meeting with the boss, even after hours or when they're not due to be in work. Take someone with you. Sit down, write down what you have to say and say, this is what's going on, and I feel that this is happening in the workplace, and I don't want to have to take it any further, and I need it to stop. I'd be very interested to see how that conversation might go. I would say it'd work out quite well for the person.
Bluebird Care are hiring nurses and carers across Donegal. Call 9129562. Bluebird Care are sponsors of today's show.
Our February Fit Club is back. Are you up to the challenge over the next few weeks? All you have to do is walk or run 56 miles in the month of February. That's as little as 2 miles per day. Then send us in your pictures from your walk or upload them to social media using the hashtag David's February Fit Club. We have great prizes each week up for grabs for those who take part, and most importantly, we will be raising money for Rocco's Road to Recovery. That's our February Fit Club. It's back. It's 28 days. Are you up to the challenge?
Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure has everything you need to gear up for the GAA season this year. Get your hands on the brand new Donegal GAA home jersey, available in men's, ladies and kids, or gear up the whole family for pre-season and match days with the new Harlem range of sweaters, leggings and snoods at michaelmurphysports.ie.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
I practice mixology. It's like biology, only with more gin.
Andy, bartender.
I am a caffeine delivery technician.
Sharon, barista.
I use my experience to make yours better.
Stanley, tourism experience manager. They've all been explaining their jobs in their own words on behalf of Northern Ireland's tourism and hospitality industries. Discover hundreds of amazing opportunities in tourism and hospitality right now when you search careerscope.uk.net/NI. Explain them any way you want.
Okay, on the programme now is Paul Gordon, Policy and Public Affairs Manager with the Irish Cancer Society. Thank you very much, Paul, for joining us.
Good morning, Greg. Thanks for having me.
Right, now, this is worrying, and I think unless you're directly affected, it might easily go over your head or not go on your radar. But your society is well aware that the HSE is pursuing people for medical debts, and they're doing so now with more vigour. Tell us what debts are people are incurring and what the HSE are doing to try and recover them.
Well, as you say, Greg, it's quite a shock for anyone to get bills when they're going through cancer treatment, and for that to be followed up with letters and calls from a debt collector is really concerning, particularly for people at a very, very vulnerable time in their lives. So we see cancer patients who maybe they don't have a medical card or private health insurance. They're often hit with a charge of €80 per treatment session, up to a max of €800 in a year. And what happens is that after 47 days, so just under 7 weeks, if someone hasn't paid that charge, it can be passed on to a debt collector. And what we've seen in recent years is an increase in spending by the HSE through local hospitals on debt collectors to collect that debt. So in 2019, they spent almost 700,000 on debt collectors, and that's a 56% rise on what they spent in 2013 to recover debt. So it's really concerning that there's been such a steep increase in expenditure on debt collectors, and that I suppose gives an indication that far from rolling back on the practice, they're actually pursuing it more strongly than they have in the past.
And people don't, I mean, any cancer treatment is going to be stressful for the majority of people, but for some it might be, it might not necessarily be successful, or and to be dealing with all of that and the pressures of family, maybe off work, maybe the other bills are stacking up, to be getting chased by a debt collector for your treatment. I can only imagine first how stressful, how hurtful that is.
Yeah, and I mean, like you say, there are people who may, we have heard of people who may have received bad news at the time they're getting these debt collectors' letters. They may be getting news about having to have further treatment or surgery, and I suppose that compounds the physical and emotional challenges you're going through as a cancer patient with a really harsh financial challenge. We certainly don't think that people, when they're going through treatment, should be charged for the treatment, and it is a small subsection of cancer patients who do face the charges, but that's a group that is particularly financially vulnerable. We know that most cancer patients are financially vulnerable. We did some research on the cost of cancer in 2019, which showed that on average cancer patients after diagnosis face new expenditure of over €750 a month at a time when they face significant loss in income of €1,500 a month on average. So that just goes to show the huge impact that a cancer diagnosis has, and we hear from people all the time that it doesn't just stop after diagnosis because of the sheer scale of the expenditure, that it almost follows them around for years afterwards. People have to take out loans to pay for different charges, and particularly at the moment when we're looking at rapidly rising cost of living, we're looking at higher energy costs, which affects cancer patients particularly hard because many who are going through treatment feel the cold more. They need to use electricity and heating more, and that can really add to the costs that they're facing when they're already really financially very vulnerable.
Has it been costed as to how much it would cost per year to not charge for this treatment? I presume €80 a contribution. I'm not sure it would pay it. Obviously, there are those then that would, be able to get this covered through a medical card. But to provide this care for free, has anyone found out how much that might cost in 1 year?
Well, so the charge is an inpatient charge. So it's for anyone who's either staying overnight in the hospital or who are going for a day case treatment. So that would apply to chemotherapy and radiotherapy. So we haven't been able to find a figure as it relates specifically to cancer patients, but to remove the charge entirely for those who do incur inpatient charges will cost around €30 million a year. And we understand that is a significant sum of money.
But it used to be. It used to be a significant sum of money, Paul, but it's not anymore.
Yeah, and I think in the greater scheme of things, in the operation of the health service, the rationale for this charge is really revenue raising. It's not like if you take emergency department charges, for example. So whatever your view on it,
you're discouraging people for turning up for no reason. Hospital car park charges is, for all the revenue that's raised, a lot of it is to discourage local workers from using the hospital car park and going on around their daily business or leaving the car there and shopping. This is life-saving treatment that we're talking about. We do not, you know what I mean? It is the only reason there can be a charge is a money grab.
Exactly that. So that's what we're saying is that inpatient charges, it applies to people who are already in the system, people who need treatment, and we shouldn't be putting up financial barriers to people who do need treatment. So there are certain exemptions for people with medical cards. There are exemptions for women getting maternity care, and that's absolutely right, because we want women and their children as they progress through maternity care to ensure that they show up for their appointments and that there's no financial barriers to that. The same applies to prescribed infectious diseases like COVID, for example, because we want people who are seriously ill, who need treatment, to be in hospital, and we don't want financial barriers.
I mean, for all the money we're talking, who are they going at? Like, what is the, you've talked about those that don't have to pay, and quite rightly so. So that makes you start wondering, well, who actually is it? Who are they going after here? For all the money that's involved, given the budget, what's the motivation? Who are they going for? What do they hope to achieve with this?
Well, I suppose what the HSE would say is that they have an obligation to collect the charge, and their way of enforcing it, if people don't pay, is through debt collectors. And that's really, it's quite hard to hear that the health system treats it in that way. We understand that they have a legal obligation to collect charges. However, the method in which they do it is something that we strongly disagree with, and it's something that while they say they're only implementing it, it's something that we believe they could stop over.
Yeah, let me put it a different way. I think if people have the money, they will pay it, right? Some people might have the money and might forget to pay it, and maybe just a reminder from the HSE themselves might encourage them to pay. Like, I don't think people are saying, you don't have to pay for that because they don't chase up for 6 or 7 months. Do you get where I'm coming from? The people they end up chasing up are those, the majority of them are those that probably don't have the resources at that time to pay for this treatment.
That's it, and I think that's why it's particularly terrifying for those patients, because they're not only dealing with debt collectors for charges of €80 at a time, but they're also dealing with a plethora of other expenses that they clearly can't afford, because these are often people who they may be just outside of the income threshold to qualify for a medical card. They may not have the financial means to get private health insurance and the protection that can offer to many. So they're the ones who, in this case, are really feeling the sharp end of the stick. And it's a really we feel it's a really inhumane practice to pursue people at what can, for many, can be a low point in their life, not just physically, but emotionally, and it's really challenging. And like you say, there can also be people who simply forget to pay for a charge, who, with maybe the admin and applying for medical cards, the many things that you have to get in place with regard to your treatment, the last thing you think about is the letter that drops in the box with an invoice for inpatient charges, which many people may not have been aware of or may not have considered at the outset of their treatment, because all they're thinking about is getting well and getting through their treatment.
And you wonder how many people listening to this have learned for the first time that you have to pay for these services, but to be getting a third parties involved in spending €600,000 for the service is unbelievable stuff. All right, listen. Presumably that cost passed on to the patient, so the employment of debt collectors, the people end up paying for that one way or other. Thanks, Paul, for that. That's Paul Gordon there, Policy and Public Affairs Manager with the Irish Cancer Society.
The 9 till noon show with Bluebird Care, providing home care services for all ages in Donegal. Visit bluebirdcare.ie and bring care home.
You can pick up all the ingredients for a great deal at Tesco Mobile, like the amazing Samsung Galaxy A52s 5G, free for just €30 a month on our bill pay plan. That's a saving of $149.99. Plus, you'll even get 99% network coverage. This is Supermarket Mobile. Tesco Mobile. Every little helps. Visit us in-store or search Tesco Mobile. T's and C's apply. 24-month contract payable by direct debit. 99% population coverage. See tescomobile.ie for full plan details and T's and C's.
If you're buying new tyres, contact Auto Fast Fit in Letterkenny. Get great grip and great brands at prices to suit every budget. Tow bars also supplied and fitted for cars and commercial vehicles. Auto Fast Fit, Pierce Road, Letterkenny. Call 912-1174.
If you'd like to save on your home printing costs, switch to a cartridge-free printer. Raymond Sweeney here from Ben Sweeney Euronics to let you know that Epson EcoTank printers can save you up to 90% on the cost of ink. They're different to most printers because they use an ink tank that's easily filled with a bottle instead of using cartridges. Save money and time with an Epson EcoTank printer at Ben Sweeney Euronics Port Road, Letterkenny, and the shopping centre, Dunlow.
Ben Sweeney Euronics. We deliver, we install, we care.
Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. Milford Retail Park now open. Large range of wall and floor tiles on display and in stock. Over 70 different laminate floors to suit every pocket. Tilers and wood fitters available. New bathware showroom now open. Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. 083 091 0707.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Discover Edinburgh this summer with Ryanair's 3 times weekly service. Stunning architecture, endless winding streets, and an awe-inspiring castle. Ireland West Airport. You're flying.
Okay, so let's have a quick look at the weather forecast today. Breezy and mostly clouded, just limited bright to sunny spells. There'll be some light rain or drizzle in the afternoon, but becoming more persistent in the evening. Temperatures 10 to 12 degrees, winds fresh to strong and westerly wind in westerly winds. All right, we're joined on the programme now by Dinny. Good morning, Dinny. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, how are you?
It's nice to speak to you. Right, okay. Now, you are concerned, are you, or certainly interested in the current visiting restrictions at Letterkenny University Hospital?
Yes, I am.
What's the story?
The story is I have a sister on there, and her son took me up yesterday to see her, and they didn't let me in.
Now, it's you would have been allowed in, but your son, it was he that wasn't allowed in. Tell us why.
Well, he got on, but I didn't. I don't know what kind of a carry-on it is. And then you put on the television on the house and send at a football match. And my sister's not well, and she may not have long to live, I don't know. I'm actually even giving them to say hello.
Okay, so your son was allowed in, but you weren't.
That's right.
And you're saying one extra person, particularly, obviously there's compassionate grounds here, one extra person wouldn't have harmed.
Oh, that's all. I don't know who's making the rules or who's in charge, but there's something wrong there altogether.
How long is it since you've seen your sister, Denny?
Oh, I didn't see her since she went down. She must be on there 6 weeks.
Wow. And I think you've told us that you're 87 and your sister's aged 88.
That is correct.
How did it feel when they told you yesterday that you couldn't go in?
I was very annoyed. Very annoyed to think brother and sister and that was her son. I don't know who's making the rules and regulations, but they're definitely wrong. And then you look at the football match and the crowd that's on, and the bars are all open and they're all drinking.
And many of the staff in the hospital, this is not an insult to having a go, but I'm sure many of the staff in the hospital are in the same bars and restaurants and are at football matches as the general population are.
Oh, no, well, everybody. I mightn't give a chance to speak for it at all if it happened today.
Do you worry about that, Denny, that you wouldn't get to see your sister again?
I worry, surely.
I presume it's taking its toll on you. It's having an impact on how you're feeling too.
Because I'm not that well. I'm all right, but I'm not great.
Yeah. Did they tell you if you could? Did they tell you if you could visit your sister at any point, Denny?
What?
Did they say that come back tomorrow when you can visit your sister?
They
or
said nothing. Just said no. Only one at a time. I thought, well, if he goes on, I said, can I not go on then? I tell one. No. Just one every day. I don't know what kind of rules and regulations. One every day.
And Denny, listen, I don't know. You said you're 87 and your health's pretty good. You might be more comfortable. Would you navigate in the hospital with your nephew with you? Would you?
Of course, surely.
I think that would be a fair thing for someone to ask, that they had someone to go with them. Denny, listen, we're going to inquire. That trip's finished. You've already travelled from Inishowen to Letterkenny and back. You didn't see your sister, and you genuinely are worried that, God forbid, you might not get to see her again.
Well,
and that's
she's getting weaker.
Right. Okay.
I'm not eating as much as she was.
Okay, Denny. It's very worrying for you, I'm sure. Okay. Listen, we're going to try and find out what the story is. I can't see why you should not be able to go in with your nephew, with her son, and go and see your sister.
Well, nobody can see the sense to it at all.
Yeah. Well, I didn't follow all the restrictions and do what I did so that you would not be allowed to go in and see your sister. I did it, and I sacrificed, and we all sacrificed so much so that you could go in and see your sister, Denny. That's what I was doing it for. So, listen, leave it with us, okay?
Who is it? Who am I talking to?
My name's Greg. I have the show here on Highland Radio, and we can ring up the hospital and find out what the story is for you, Denny.
Yeah.
Okay, good man. And Caroline will be in touch with you as well, okay, Denny?
God bless you.
All right, you too, and best wishes to you.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by Bluebird Care, providing nurse-led home care services in Donegal. Call Bluebird Care 91295562 and bring care home.
Woohoo! It's back! The Holy in the Sun, September 26th to October 3rd. Contact Cassidy Travel Dublin or visit declanerney.com.
Beat the cost of Brexit and no customs charges. Do you need a UK address? For your limited company or personal use, Space Hub in Derry can provide you with your own virtual office or mailbox. Have your post and parcels delivered to Space Hub and collect at your convenience. Also brand new 20-foot shipping containers now in stock. Ideal for all your storage needs at our Springtown and Coolmore depots. Find us on Facebook or spacehubderry.com or call 04871 878077 for details.
Hello, Grace. Where are you heading?
Down to Made to Measure Fireplaces in Creasla.
Made to Measure Fireplaces? Didn't you just buy a fireplace there?
Yeah, but I'm going now to pick my kitchen worktop.
Create the kitchen and living room of your dreams at made-to-measure fireplaces and granite worktops. They've been in business for over 40 years. So for help choosing granite or quartz for your worktop, fireplace or stove, visit the made-to-measure showroom at Cashel Creasla or see mtmfireplaces.com or on Facebook.
Nutrius Milk Replacer range, which includes NutriStart and NutriStart Plus, offers the best start to your calves this spring season. With 23% and 25% crude proteins, ideal for calf to beef and heifer rearing systems. Give your calves the best possible start. Available at your local Homeland store. Visit nutrius.ie for full nutritional information.
With everything from pedal and electric ride-ons to go-karts and scooters, there's loads of fun guaranteed all year round at Tinny's Toys. If you've a kid's birthday coming up, Tinny's Toys can help make it special or get snow ready with a sleigh. Visit Tinny's Toys on Leck Road, Letterkenny, or shop online for express delivery at tinnystoys.com. Tinny's Toys, with so much more than just farm toys.
Okay, let's finish up with some of your comments. My son got a parcel from America. Sorry, my son was sent a parcel from America before Christmas. After 9 weeks, it arrived this morning. In case anyone else is waiting on a parcel, it might come yet. They say it's great news. That's good to hear. Read the hybrid leaving cert. The mental health is certainly an issue. The hybrid leaving cert has to go. Let the students sit a traditional leaving cert and let all students have the same chance to earn their marks. Otherwise, you have students who've genuinely worked for their marks competing with other students who are being given predictive grades and teachers who are under pressure to give higher marks. So let's go back to one of the lines in that. Let all students have the same chance to earn their marks. Now, many students don't have the same chance to earn their marks because they may have been out of school themselves from being sick or being close contacts. Then their teachers may have been out. They may not have internet at home, proper internet, or it might be a busy house, so they haven't been able to study during hybrid learning. And they may not have the money to get grinds. So I don't think we should be under any illusion. I'm not saying we shouldn't go the traditional route, but let's not pretend that that gives all students the same chance, because that, unfortunately, is not the country that we live in. As a person who worked in education for 40 years, I'm impressed listening to the three young students on your show. But has, alas, the government don't engage with the people at the coalface in any decision making. You're mostly right, but the students did sit in on some of those conversations and their opinions were clearly disregarded. Greg, what about our junior cert students this year? No chat about them. They're in the same situation with their exams. Yeah, indeed. And we can talk about that. I think, you know, that can be caught up on or addressed. I think the leaving cert, it kind of determines, you know, it's your last exam. It kind of determines how you get on in where you can go. If you choose to go on to third level, many don't. 40% don't. And they go on and do other stuff. So, but I take your point. My son's doing the leaving cert. His art teacher was off for a month before Christmas and there was no substitute. He's now spending every lunchtime catching up at home, preparing a portfolio that has to be finished for university this week. He has mocks next week, so other subjects are suffering. It wasn't his fault, and this could happen again before the leaving cert. Too much pressure. Another, when we discovered the news this morning, my big, strong, 6'18" burst into tears and said, I'm going to walk away after 6 years with absolutely nothing because I'm so far behind and falling further behind every day. I just can't keep up. Now, you can't tell me that we want to make decisions that leave young men and women in that position. My son is due to do the leaving cert next year and he missed out on the junior cert. He did transition year due to COVID. Okay, but that might work to his advantage, though he's doing TY this year, isn't he? Not much in the way in the entertainment in Termon, it seems. That's as it relates to It's a small group of people, but it's not insignificant because it's disrupting people's lives. It's not a reflection on the whole area. I think everyone knows that, don't they? This caller says, though children know from others that Gardai can't do anything, but the parents can, as they don't want any bad publicity. Sally Rod, they say. Well, those days are gone, but I think those of us of a certain vintage, dare I say, remember. Hi, Greg. I travelled on the bus from Donegal to Galway, and they only allow a 10-minute stop with a full bus and people queuing to get to the toilet. 10 minutes is not enough time. Some passengers have health problems and need more time. I'm sure this isn't the only bus route which has a 10-minute break. What do your other listeners think? All right, let us know what you think about that. That's why we have to leave it on the programme today. Thank you very much for listening.